Warning: all stories could be completely made up, and we have no way to confirm that. Any and all names mentioned in the show are most likely fake. We at Campfire Moto Stories are not journalists and should not be considered as much. If you're offended by anything said or shown in this episode, we don't care, but we encourage you to voice your opinion so we can laugh at the fact that you can't control your emotions. This program contains full language, and I recommend no one to watch or listen to this.
The views and opinions expressed in the program are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the sponsor, any advertisers, or the sponsor's affiliates, employees, or partners.
Coming to you live from the Claremont Lounge in Atlanta, Georgia, it's Campfire Moto Stories.
Hey everyone, welcome to Campfire Moto Stories. I'm Anthony Bennett, and I'm thrilled to have you join us today for our live show. This YouTube show / podcast is all about sharing amazing motorcycle stories from everyday riders like you. Whether it's an epic ride, a funny mishap, or an unforgettable adventure, we want to hear it all. Today, we have some fantastic guests in the studio who we'll introduce in just a moment, where we'll dive into their riding stories. Plus, we have exciting segments lined up, including pre-recorded interviews, Billy's tech tips, spotlight a stolen bike, and stories sent in by you through the website and or phone line. At 8:30 sharp, we'll open the phone lines and give our live viewers a chance to call in and share their own motorcycle stories. Lastly, you'll get to hear an awesome story from my 5-year-old son about riding. May or may not be completely made up. But hey, 5-year-old can tell a great story, so can you. Don't forget, you can earn entries into our YZ250 giveaway by participating in the show. Check out campfiremotostories.com for all the official rules. And by participating in any way, shape, or form, you indicate that you've read the official rules and agree to our terms and condition. Let's get it started.
Another lap around the wall, another request, another call. All I hear is need, I can't reply to all. I feel the strain, I fall behind, I sacrifice my precious time. All I ever get is everything mine. But it's true.
Hey, welcome to the show. Sorry we're running a little bit late tonight. Somebody got stuck in some traffic.
It's Atlanta. What am I supposed to do?
Hey, that is a legit reason. So, in studio tonight with me is my good buddy Opie Caylor. Opie is a local star at Road Atlanta. He's competed in several AMA classes, including the 750 Superstock, Formula Extreme. He's earned the reputation as one of the top privateers in the Superstock series. Jeez, if I could talk. I believe you finished a 4th at California Speedway one year.
So, best.
Well, you just yes or no? We don't. We're running a little late, sir. So
Okay,
yeah,
my bad.
Was it a 4th? Was it a 4th?
No, and it should have been a podium, and I was taking it easy on the competition on the last lap, and yeah, I got bumped back to 4th. I was mad.
Yeah, but no, I'm glad to have you in, man. Like, when I first even had this concept, I was like, I gotta get Opie on. Like, we've got a lot of good stories between us because we worked together at a few different shops over the years, and just kind of funny, I made a note in here too. I remember we started working together at Freedom Power Sports 2009, I want to say.
8,
around
9, something like
yeah,
that.
I think in 8, beginning of 9, and Chip Lincoln was there working with us, and he's like, dude, Opie's a bad dude on a street bike. And I was like,
But
what?
total poser.
I was like, this guy? And I looked at some results, and I was like, holy shit, he's a bad dude on a street bike.
Well, I appreciate that. I always certainly tried and enjoy going fast, so it just kind of worked out that way.
So I always like to open up with an icebreaker, just in case my guests are a little bit nervous or that. So I've got 2 stories that will make you a little uncomfortable, and then you're good to go after that. So
cool.
Do you want to talk about me beating you on a TTR 125 or shop rags that were your underwear?
Wow, you went there.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did. I'm coming in strong from the start.
Let's go all in on underwear.
Okay, so I actually wasn't working at the shop. I was at Marmo, but it was a legend about it. So apparently, your wife gave you rags to bring into the shop.
Correct.
And in those rags were some of your underwear. Some, I believe, were whitey tighties. And when you came into work the next day, somebody discovered it. So the next day when you came in, everybody was wearing them.
It was something like that. I remember something, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? And so, yeah, some stuff got mixed up when it shouldn't have. There was stuff to be thrown away. There was stuff to be turned into rags, and it all ended up in the same place. That's not the first time I've lost underwear.
Oh, should we go into that then right now?
Next show. Bring me back. Bring me if you dare.
So yeah, the rumor I heard with it, you walked in, you saw that, and went, man, fuck you guys, and then walked out and went home for the day.
It was something like that. I didn't know I could go there, but yeah, I'm like, screw you all. Absolutely.
Yes, this is marked not safe for kids, so like a 6-year-old watching YouTube won't stumble across this.
Perfect.
But,
okay.
Yes, and you know I am no role model of any kind, so yeah, anything goes.
All right,
anything
cool.
is fair game. So.
All right, so that was not bad. So let's TTR. Okay.
So
remind
the TTR, I don't remember how it got started, and it was probably just because Chip's egging you on about coming to ride with us, or I'm egging you on, and there was an arena cross track in downtown Ackworth. Funny enough, Avery Ross that works at Mountain Motorsports, he lives real close to there, and I had to go to his house the other day. And I was like, dude, you're like a mile from this arena cross track. And he's like, what? And I pulled it up on the map. I'm like, yeah, it still looks like it's there. So we drove over there.
Still there.
It's basically they took all the, because it was a legit arena cross track. If you were to go to a pro arena cross race, that's what it would look like. Yeah, you just kind of mowed down all the jumps. The whoops section is completely flat. The turns, you can tell four-wheelers still ride it out there, but they rode up back and forth on it to do little jumps and stuff.
I remember going up there with you one time, and I think you were riding an RMZ 250.
450.
450. Yeah. Okay, and so I rode dirt some just for training for road racing, but you know, props to you because you're quite a good moto rider. And so I remember you went off, and I thought, wow, man, Anthony can throw down.
Well, somehow it got to just talking shit at the shop, and I was like, dude, I can beat you on a 125 out there. And you were like, there's no way. And I'm like, yeah, because you can't jump the jump. So your power advantage of having a 254 stroke, because you were on a CRF 250R, and I had the TTR 125. I don't even know if it was an L. It may have been the non-L model. And I was like, dude, I'm telling you, I can take you down. And somehow it came into a 5-lap race. I don't remember what I had to do if I lost, but if you lost, you were supposed to lick my balls. That's what I recall.
remember losing, but I don't remember doing that.
Well, that's just it. So we did the 5-lap race, and then you lost. And so the next day at work, I'm like, okay, time for you to pay up. And I go to unzip, and you're like, man, I'm not doing that. No. So we compromised, and you had to kiss me on the cheek.
Right.
So somewhere in a flip phone, probably in a drawer in my house, is a picture of you giving me a kiss on the cheek. So I'm going to do everything I can to find that picture.
I'll pay to not show it.
How much? How much are we talking here?
20.
20?
20.
I'll take $20. Hey.
I would say that was low. I was like, I'll go low first.
$20 is $20.
All right,
I've done way worse for $20. So,
do you have it?
The picture?
Yeah.
No, I don't have the picture.
Good. I get to keep my 20.
So, because you were late, I had somebody that was going to be calling in at 7:15.
Not my fault.
It was kind of your fault. So
It actually was.
he's supposed to be calling into this, so I'm going to keep an eye out for him giving us a ring. So also, you recently were a big part of One Fast Move, a road racing movie on Amazon Prime. Came out 2 weeks ago. We actually talked it on my last show because I do this every 2 weeks. And you invited me to a little private screening last night in Roswell, and it was awesome. It was so much better watching it in theaters.
I agree. You know, I think a lot of hardcore racer types watched it and thought, well, some of that's unrealistic or this and that. And it's funny, at first, because I was emotionally invested in One Fast Move big time, I took some of that a little personal. So, you know, I'm shallow like that, so I needed to work on myself a little bit. But I started thinking about some of the stuff people were saying, and I was like, well, let me go back and look, you know. And so it's funny. There's a scene, spoiler alert, so I'm about to screw it for everybody if they haven't watched it yet. But the kill switch scene, and man, I can tell you, some people are like, oh, they don't do that. And I thought, man, we did crap like that.
I mess with my buddies that often with that.
I mean, who didn't?
He's calling in.
So, but yeah, One Fast Move was amazing. Getting to do that, getting to work with the writer and director Kelly Blatz.
So this writer and director Kelly Blatz, he's a good dude.
Kelly's awesome. Kelly's my guy.
Well, that's who's on the phone with us right now.
No
What's up,
way.
Kelly?
I'm glad you said that, Opie. I was about to attack, man.
Man, what a perfect intro. I had no idea.
Yeah, I was texting with Kelly earlier, and I was like,
That's
dude,
awesome.
I'm not letting Opie know that you're calling in. So he has a meeting at 8:00.
Okay.
So I was like, he's like, you want to call in at 7:30? I was like, let's do 7:15 and get a little bit of time.
I was late, Kelly. I was
Yeah.
late.
Opie, what's up? Anthony, how's it going? What's going on, boys?
Great to hear from you.
So
Great
we
to hear
have
from
on
you.
the phone the writer and director, not writer, the writer
Woo!
and director of One Fast Move. That's now on Amazon Prime. Go watch it if you haven't watched it. So I want to start with the first question, Kelly. Who was the worst stuntman on set, and why was it Opie?
Oh, are you kidding? Opie Caylor. You know, this guy, I got so much love for you because he wore a million hats. He comes in, first of all, you know, he's the nicest guy on the planet. So
Agreed.
that's where you start off. Man, he helped build the bikes. He came in, we asked him to strap one of the cameras on the front of a race bike and have him do it. He was like, whatever you need, I'm on it. And he got some of the most killer shots of the film was the front of Opie's bike. And he played a racer. So honestly, I'm just going to sing your praises this whole episode, Opie, I got to say.
Man, Kelly, I don't know if I'm worthy of all that, but for me, just getting the opportunity to work with you, to work with Dave Cutler, the crew you assembled to do what we did was absolutely amazing. And I've done a lot of things in motorcycles. That was my first opportunity to work on a big budget film. And I can't say anything else but the same about you. Getting to work with you was amazing, with Dave, getting to talk a little bit with KJ, and just being a part of your vision and what you brought to the screen was amazing. And as you heard, yeah, we decided to do that private screening last night. And man, me and Dave sat beside each other, and I don't know what it is, but there's just nothing like seeing One Fast Move on the big screen.
Yeah. Every time KJ's abs showed up, you'd hear Opie in the front go, "That's Dave. That's Dave's. He's doing stunt abs," kind of thing.
At one point, I even said that his abs were AI generated.
Yes.
AI could not have built those apps. They're not advanced enough. No, Opie, thanks for the words, man. I'm just your words about the film meant so much, and obviously I wanted to make you and every motorcycle rider and racer proud, because really it just came from it was a love letter to motorcycles. You know, I'm not a racer, but I'm a motorcyclist, and they changed my life. And that love was felt on set from everybody who showed up every day to give to this film. So
I absolutely agree. And man, it's funny. I've been on this high ever since the movie came out, and getting to talk to people about it and share it with other people. And it really is. I tell people, whether they come to the shop or where I talk to them, whatever the situation is, that it's the story of us. It's the story of people that start riding on the street and then venture off into a track day, or maybe even stay on the street, but ultimately end up on the racetrack and get that opportunity to go fast and have fun with your friends and be competitive. And I think you did such a good job with it, Kelly. It's our story, and you brought it to the world.
Yep.
Oh,
I agree with that.
thank you. Thank
Even
you so much,
so,
man.
I got
Thanks for
the
words.
pleasure to meet Dave Cutler yesterday as well. We talked for a good bit even after the movie, and he was telling me after you guys had left, he's like, "Dude, let me tell you something about Opie on set." He goes, "He was literally the fastest guy on the track all time. Didn't matter what bike he was on. We'd strap an extra 50 pounds onto the bikes, and he'd still just." We have to be like, oh, we're trying to keep up with him in some of the scenes because he's going so damn fast. So
This guy, it was unbelievable what he did, and I assume you'd never done that before with a cinema camera on the front of your bike. But Opie, I know that's your home track, man. I know you know that track.
Yeah.
You've split a deer on that track, man. You've that is your home track. So your expertise just gave us that extra bit that we needed to capture these races at speed, man.
Of all the things I've gotten to do there, and having done my second ever track day there in 1993, I literally have over 30 years of riding at Road Atlanta, and multiple different configurations. Although you did throw us for a little bit of a loop when we did ride it backwards, Kelly.
Yes.
That was fun. That
I
was
even
really
noticed
neat.
in the film, I was like, there was a start at one point, and I'm like, I don't remember the start at Road Atlanta being that steep. And then somebody mentioned that was like coming into 10A, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes a little more sense.
Yeah, we had to do something to keep you on your toes, Opie. You know, you'd be too fast for those guys, but you still rocked them.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you having confidence in me. And you know, I don't know if I've ever said it, but getting the opportunity to ride the camera bike, especially you know in the most ultimate of scenes that takes place in One Fast Move. I mean, it was an honor. I mean, it was an honor to get to do it. It was an honor to get to see it on screen. And you know, I guess I'm just that guy. I just want to know that I've always done my job to the best of my ability. And when I watch it and how it was edited together, Dave and Anthony and I were talking about that last night. The way it was edited together is so good, and all the noises, the motorcycle sounds are all correct. I mean, it's so good. I just can't get over it.
I was literally going to turn the TV off the first time I watched it if there was a two-stroke noise at all. I'm not gonna lie, and I was not gonna turn it off, but I was gonna be very mad if there was a B-twin noise when there was a inline 4 on camera. You know, so that was one of the, I feel like that's one of the simplest things that any movie that I've watched in the past, motorcycle related, and a lot of for me were more dirt bike related. You're just like, what are you guys doing? Like you couldn't have somebody on set that would go, hey, yeah, you can't do that. Like, and of course the editing people probably be like, why? What's the big deal? No, it's a big deal. Like, that's a big deal.
There was a movie I saw years ago. I cannot remember the name of it, but it had an actor by the name of Lawrence Fishburne. And
Biker Boys.
No, it wasn't Biker Boys. There was
really?
another one. And they were riding Ducatis, but the sounds they put in, and you can clearly see, this was before they were V4 Ducatis.
Mm-hmm.
You clearly see it's a Ducati V-twin, but it made like inline 4-cylinder sounds, and it was painful to watch.
Yes.
So when I saw, and this is recently, Kelly, I saw this just in the last couple of days, I believe. You were talking about how you mic'd the bikes so that the sounds would be correct for the film. It was, I mean, like, wow. I mean, you guys thought of everything. It was so good.
That's pretty cool to mic the bikes. I probably wouldn't even thought about it, but no, that's pretty smart because then you're getting very authentic, and it's very, very easy to be like, all right, this was from this bike kind of thing when you're recording the audio and stuff.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. I'm so glad that you feel that way, because early on, even before we shot the film, I was asking some consultants who are motorcyclists and racers and ex-racers, you know, what would make you turn this off right away? And they said the sounds. And I don't know what it is, but there's a disconnect. Like, they use the wrong sounds, and you realize that when motorcycles are not usually the centerpiece of a film, you know, there's usually a chase scene or something, and the sound designer is completely separate from the shoot.
Yep.
And so they just pull a sound from their library that sounds beefy, and they don't know how to distinguish between different bike sounds. So I'm really glad. Nick, I have to give a lot of credit as well to Aaron Cujo Cooley, our sound recordist on set, who gave us great reference and bike sounds, and also our designer, Nicola Simkic, who spent like months being a specialist in bike sounds. So we just had a great group of people to keep all that in check as much as we could.
Yeah, and you know, I feel like the main reason that's so important is because, yeah, you might have your average person that's going to watch the movie and they're going to be like, oh, this is kind of cool. But you're going to have people who are very invested in motorcycles, especially road racers. I guarantee you there's not a road racer out there that hasn't watched this or is planning to watch it. And those guys, as soon as they hear that disconnect or just the wrong sound, they're just going to kind of feel like how we felt in the past when we watch movies and go, oh. But to your average person, they're not going to know. But I feel like that's such a much smaller percentage than the people that are going to watch it. And they don't even have to be a racer. Just your person that likes to ride street bikes or sport bikes, they'll probably catch wind of that and be like, oh, I'm going to watch this for sure.
Absolutely.
And they would just be like, ugh, what are they doing? You know?
Right. You know, and Kelly, I was going to say too, and I don't know about you, Anthony, but one of the things I thought was so cool is, you know, the name of the movie is One Fast Move. And so to me, the most epic 8 to 10 seconds of the movie, last lap, last corner, Wes and Dean come up and over the hill. And as the camera angle is pointing back up towards the bridge, everything goes into slow motion. Yep. And you see Dean starting to pull over on Wes and squeeze him up against that curtain.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, sorry. Squeeze Wes, on the outside. And then as soon as he does the one fast move, everything speeds back up. And I really believe it's the most perfectly edited, put together. It was like that iconic scene when the thing flies over Keanu Reeves and he bends way back in the Matrix,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
To me, that scene is the motorcycle version of Keanu Reeves, who's a motorcycle lover.
Yep.
And just how it slows down. Because you think about, when you ride fast, a lot of things slow down.
Yep.
And you have to do that to be able to handle everything you're dealing with and making those decisions while you're going so fast. And the way you guys edited that together, Kelly, where everything slows down and then right as the one fast move takes place, boom, we're back at full speed. And I'm literally sitting here right now with goosebumps thinking about it. It was so awesomely done. And just the way you saw that and that you put that on film, Kelly. I mean, I'm speechless.
So I'm very shocked that you went with Matrix because I know how big of a Star Wars nerd you are. And I really thought you were going to be like, that one movie. I was like, oh, here comes Star Wars already. But no, you surprised me. You went with Matrix.
And I could have gone Back to the Future, but no, I'm
well, you own a DeLorean, so that would have been acceptable as well.
Okay.
So.
Opie, those words mean so much, man. If it was just you watching the movie and your words about this film, it would make me a very happy man. So I'm. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad you saw that, for me, the title, One Fast Move, it represented a lot of things, but specifically that moment. And I'm so glad, because it's interesting, Dean continues to say and pride himself in saying, oh, I taught him the outside. I taught him the outside path. I taught him the outside
took him
path.
on the inside. I did notice that. Yep.
Yeah. And he's you could see it's a break off. It's a breakaway from his father in a lot of ways and becoming his own man. And for me, that was all represented in that one shot. So I'm glad that you noticed that. That means a lot.
It's almost like there was foreshadowing into like a sequel or something.
Maybe.
breaking away and coming to his own man.
That's not decided by me. So we'll see. It's still early, but we'll see if I get someone gives me the go ahead. Opie, you'd be expecting the first call, man.
I've got you on speed dial, Kelly. I'm just waiting to let me know.
Opie, it's 2024.
Okay,
nobody has speed dial anymore.
I'm
Jesus
old
Christ.
school. I can't help it.
You got to go back and adjust the carburetor on your bike too? Jeez.
Sometimes. I've got a car bike still.
So, do you guys have any good pranks that happened on the set or any funny stories that you can kind of share from it?
You go, Kelly.
Opie,
what do you got?
Opie, give me. Oh no, you give me some. Opie, give me some stories. Because obviously I got to spend a good amount of time with you, but I know you spent a lot of time on the set with everyone else, and so I'd love to hear just some of any good stories from your end.
So one of the cool things was, and I think I talked to Dave about this, and Brian Stokes, and some of the other guys who were involved, was the choice of racers that were used in this film, real racers, was really exciting for me. So a guy I've raced against for years, and he's beat me way more times than I've ever beat him, was Michael Barnes. He was involved with it. So that was cool. Jason Farrell, who I've known of for years, but never got the chance to race against because he's a Northeast guy and I'm a Southeast guy. And so between Michael and Farrell and Stokes, and it was really interesting because it was almost like a little bit of a racer reunion for me. It was like, because at one point, sometimes in between shots, there were these buses, and these buses had like ACs going and waters in them, and the whole crew did a great job of making sure we had what we needed when we got hot, because it was filmed in,
it was filmed in the middle of summer. Dean was telling us about that.
Freaking hot.
Yeah.
And so we would sit around and just, it was really, we got to, like I said, kind of a reunion. And I learned things about other guys. One of the days we were filming, we were down at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And there was a thunderstorm that came up. And, I mean, it literally shut us down. Everybody get inside.
Yeah.
Safety is...
It'll do that in the South.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And safety is obviously a very big deal to all the production crew. And so we were locked in a room. I don't know if you knew this, Kelly. We were locked in a room to wait for this storm to go by for like 4 hours. Like 3 or 4 hours. We were locked in this room at Atlanta Motor Speedway, like, y'all can't go outside. We're like, what? So we were going over the door and looking out, like, I don't know, I might make a run for it. They're like, no, don't you do it. It was nuts. And it was like we were a bunch of trapped rats.
Oh man, we got hit, Anthony, with so much. You know the way you live in Georgia.
Oh,
with
yeah.
so much weather and thunderstorm that shut us down. I mean, it was more days than not. Almost every day we got shut down. We were just waiting for the time. And it was, the downside is that it took time away from the track. But the upside was that we got to spend a lot of time together, getting to know each other. And also what was amazing about this crew and all the racers is that the minute that they gave the go ahead and we were full speed ahead, everybody went above and beyond to make our days and to get what we need. And I just have so much gratitude that I'll have forever, man.
Yeah, come 2 p.m. on summer, you're almost guaranteed a shower of some kind. Depends how bad it's going to be or not.
I do have, I have 2 more cool stories I want to share with you guys.
Go for it. Come on.
Okay, so Kelly, please, if you got anything to say, man, just jump in there. One of the cool things, so growing up when I was a kid, I did BMX freestyle.
Oh yeah,
and I rode
you're damn
ramps.
good at that too.
Even for a 50-year-old man, I still love riding flatland. And so growing up, I had a poster on my wall of a man named Eddie Fiola. He was like 4 or 5-time king of the skate park. Grew up in Upland, California. Was literally traveling the world when he was 19 years old. I mean, the guy's an amazing rider, well loved by everybody that was in the sport. And so the night before we go on set, my daughter Abigail is like, "Daddy, Eddie Fiola's in this movie." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "No way." And so she is.
How'd she find out?
I have no clue. I guess IMDb. I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
And so she goes and looks, and she's like, "Yeah, Eddie Fiola." And I'm like, "You got to."
So you've talked about him enough to where she knows the name.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we watch Rad and
Okay,
how
yeah,
many
yeah.
times. And so literally, first day on set, I think at Road Atlanta, I went complete fanboy, and I run up to Eddie, and I'm like, "Oh my God, Eddie, I'm such a fan. Will you sign my let me take my shirt off, sign something." And
Did he sign your nipple?
Yeah,
Like, why'd you take your shirt off?
in a circular way?
Then
actually.
you went and had it tattooed?
Yeah.
Don't show us.
So I'll keep my shirt on. So, but no, getting to hang out with Eddie was incredible. So that was day one. So that evening we're getting ready to leave, and I just didn't want to go away from the guy because I thought, man, this is incredible. This is Eddie Fiola. And he was like, "Bro, do you have a bike to ride?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I bring in the next day my 1988 GT Pro Freestyle Tour, still set up for Flatland. We ended up having we had a little break in the action. So we had like a little 10-minute demo session. And Jason Farrell, his wife Jessica, they were up filming and making videos. And, it's like, oh my God, man, I just went back, 30-something years hanging out and watching this. And so the one thing the other thing I want to point out too about One Fast Move, and I don't know if Kelly knows all this. I don't know if you knew all this, Anthony, but throughout the course of my life, there's so many things that have happened for me at Road Atlanta specifically. I mean, at that track. Yeah. Kelly, had mentioned one earlier about the deer. I hit a deer there in 2003.
I have it marked down on my things to bring up. He took my thunder.
So I actually have a picture of me hanging out with Josh Hayes, former factory Yamaha Superbike racer, 4 AMA Superbike championships to his name. He is the winningest rider in AMA road racing history as of now, and probably won't be beat. There's a picture of me and Josh hanging out in 1997 at Road Atlanta, where my now wife is standing beside me, and we hadn't even met yet. And so,
oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so I'm been married 24 years. And again, now thanks to a race at Road Atlanta, literally, if it wasn't for Road Atlanta, I might never have met her. So it's like, okay, there's that. There's the deer thing that's happened. A lot of the wins that I've done, a lot of the success I've had in my racing career happened at Road Atlanta. Finished on the podium there at AMA Superstock race. Won a bunch of the Suzuki Cup finals when that series was strong. Won countless, Weir Nationals and Weir championships there. And then I meet Eddie Fiola there. And literally one of the coolest things I've ever gotten to do in my life is be part of this amazing movie that Kelly put together. And so I'm thankful for Road Atlanta in my life. I really am, because so many cool things I've gotten to be a part of because of that track.
Yeah. It's weird how things like that comes together.
Sorry, Anthony.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I love all that, Opie. I know you told me some of that, while we were shooting, and it's just, that type of stuff is what's most meaningful to me. You know, making the film was an honor, but these stories and these personal friendships that we build and the memories that is most important to me. So I'm so glad that takes the place in your heart, man.
Dude,
Truly.
big time, big time. And it was funny. We were sitting there one day, and going back to the deer thing. We are getting ready to film some of the start procedures that we did on the back straightaway at Road Atlanta, going backwards into turn 7. And me and Dave Cutler and KJ were standing there beside a bike before the shot. The shots were being set up, cameras were being set up. We were getting ready to roll, and I don't even know how the conversation came up, but KJ asked me. He was like, "Hey, Opie," he goes, "I'm curious when when you're getting ready to start a race, what's going through your mind? What are you thinking about? And what I want to be able to show this as best as I can for the film. I want to portray this. What does that look like to you?" And I was instantly impressed with KJ's commitment to wanting it to be real. I really feel like from Kelly all the way down to the last person, everybody's goal was to make this as real as it could be. And so at some point, somebody made a comment about me hitting a deer there. And so from that point on, KJ was like, "You hit a fucking deer?" And I'm like, yeah, fourth gear on a 750 in the S's.
Which my understanding, my memory of it is like turn 5.
No, it's the S's down at the very bottom before you come up to turn 5.
Okay.
Right, literally at the lowest
Oh,
point.
because 5 is Wheelie Hill or whatever.
Yeah, Wheelie Hill.
So,
It's the sharp left that leads up the hill.
but what always mixes me up about like 3 to 4 whatever, is the fact that there's multiple configurations through there.
Exactly.
So I'm always like, wait, which?
It's
There's new to old. Like,
right. It's the traditional turn
yeah,
left. Go up
there
the
you
hill.
go.
So I'm telling KJ, I'm like, well, first of all, before green flag drops, I'm trying not to piss my pants, and because I'm, it's interesting when you're there on the grid, and I think KJ did a great job with this. There's all these nerves. You're kind of, somebody made a comment about one point he forgot to strap his helmet.
Yes.
I've done that. I've
Yeah,
gotten.
I've
I'm
done
like,
it.
shit, I didn't tighten my helmet up. Hell, as a matter
I've
of
been
fact,
an hour into a 2-hour endurance race and gone, oh shit! Like you feel it kind of just tickling a little
right,
bit.
like that's a bug on me. No, that's my helmet strap. But just I think it was 2 weekends ago, Mark Marquez went out in MotoGP I guess he'd swapped bikes, or maybe it was the beginning of the session. His leathers had no knee sliders.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, here's one of the greatest riders in the world.
Yeah.
And he forgot his freaking knee sliders. At the end of the day, we're just people on motorcycles.
Yeah.
That, they're trying to go fast. And so, yeah, sometimes we forget stuff. But so I'm telling KJ, trying not to piss my pants, trying to stay focused and calm at the same time. And it's literally a bundle of nerves in your stomach.
Yeah.
But as soon as the green flag drops,
It all goes away.
it's gone.
Yeah.
It's instant. It happens instantaneous. And then I kind of go on kill mode, and I'm just trying to pass as many people as I can.
Yeah.
Or if I get the whole shot, I'm just trying to be out front, hit all my marks, not make mistakes, and be as fast as I possibly can. But as we're talking to KJ and we're telling him about this, and we're already talking about here's what it's supposed to look like. He's like, wait a second. You had a fucking deer? I'm like, yeah.
Let it go, dude.
And so he actually gave me a nickname. Now, this is not my nickname that I gave myself.
Uh-huh.
And so the funny thing, KJ in the movie does a great job with not having any accent. And correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, but isn't he from New Zealand?
He is, yeah.
So he has that Australian type of accent
Yeah.
naturally. But in the movie, you would never know. But then every time I turned around after that, my new nickname was fucking legend. So, I mean, I'd just see him, and I'd look over, he's like, fucking legend, mate. And so it almost got embarrassing. I know I appreciated it because I was grateful that, that KJ, he really blended in as a rider because he rides. And he's an actor, and he's trying to do the best job he can in creating that realistic vision. And I just thought, I love the stuff that he did ride in. Because it shows, man, this guy's into this. He wants to ride. He wants to be a part of this. And honestly, Kelly, I had so much appreciation for you and your lovely wife, Evangeline, because she rides. I remember she rode up on set one day. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is a freaking motorcycle movie by people that ride motorcycles.
Yeah.
It gets no better.
Oh man, gosh, that's how we met, her and I. We met through our love of motorcycling, and obviously
Same
this
with
was
my
a
wife.
shared love of making this film. And a couple things to say to what you just said is first, KJ, what a wonderful guy, and his commitment to getting it right was, I mean, he started riding a year before just because he wanted to make sure by the time he showed up that he wasn't going to be a race. He wasn't going to be a racer, like you are, but he was going to feel comfortable on a bike, and his commitment meant everything. And it's funny. I'm not really one to read comments or any of that, or any of that stuff. But I've heard these things about, oh, he didn't strap in his helmet, or oh, a fighter would never flip on the track, or a rider would never flip on the track or get in a fight in the pits. And
Bullshit.
It's interesting because it's like sometimes I think with the racers, obviously this is the first time that shown a light on this community. And where they maybe in a way they feel like, oh, this is representing all of us, or who I am, and I hope that the racing community also knows that this is a kid who just started racing. He doesn't know any better. Sometimes he forgets to strap his helmet, or he's doing things on the track that are unorthodox, but not everybody's doing it. You know what I mean? Not everybody. It's not representing the sport itself. It's a character. So anyways, it's just
absolutely. No, and to me, that's what makes it so real, because there's so many different styles. Hell, I a couple months back, I did a track day, and somebody posted a picture of me online, and we were at Talladega, and I've raced there, Kelly, for about as long as I've raced at Road Atlanta, and I've had the lap record, in multiple different directions at multiple different times. And somebody was looking at my picture and we're like, man, that guy's body position sucks. And I just laughed because I'm like, well, I mean, it depends on the application. It depends on your goal. For me, if I can do the lap times that will allow me to win the race, I could give a shit about what my body position looks like. I don't care. Am I fast or not? That's what matters. And so, to me, the having the different styles, and then how KJ, or I should say Wes, progressed through the film, using a lot of rear brake at first, stuff like that, riding kind of raw. And Dean really did a good job of helping kind of, mold him a little bit and calm him down to ride more like Dean. And I think you saw that. So, I mean, if you want to talk about character development, I thought it worked. I thought it worked great.
Yeah. And you said the thing about the comments too. There's going to be people like, that will never happen. That will never happen. I guarantee you, there is somebody watching that film going, holy shit, a buddy of mine did that. Or holy shit, I did that. Like, just because they think it doesn't happen does not mean that it has happened in real life. Look at all the warning stickers on everything, right? They are there because somebody did that. So no matter how ridiculous you think somebody's, don't stick your wiener in this. Right. Somebody put their dick in that. You know what I mean? Like, it's on there for a reason. Okay.
And I can tell you this: you guys will probably never guess this, but I've been in a fight in the pits before. I'm not proud of it. Yeah, man. I had this guy. He's a friend of mine, and we were racing at Talladega. It was a Kawasaki Money weekend.
You get a name drop on him?
So,
maybe don't.
I probably shouldn't. But
who won the fight first?
Brian Stokes.
No, it wasn't Brian. It wasn't Brian. But it was a guy that he and I are both friends with. I'm going to say it. Mark Reed. And so there was this local Georgia guy who was a fast rider named Byron Barber. And Byron is quick, but I felt like I had the pace to be able to get around him and win the race and, win the money or whatever. So Mark is there racing. We're both riding Kawasaki ZX6Rs. And this is like late 90s.
I was about to ask what year.
Yep, this is like 98, I'm going to say. And so I'm struggling a little bit to get around Byron Barber. And Byron's good. It's a good rider. I didn't have it that day. And Byron was riding really well. And so Mark is behind me. When we go into the old 90, it's like two turns that have 90 degree ends.
Which to me is a 180. I never got why they called it the 90s.
I just call it that single apex.
Yeah.
So, you rail in, you kind of clip the first apex, you keep your knee on the ground all the way around, and then you drive out. And so I go in there, and Mark rams it up the inside of me on the left, completely stands my shit up, and runs me off the damn track. Well, he went on to run Byron down and win the race. I came back on and finished. But I just thought, what a shithead move. And so after the race was over, I went back to the pits. I was pissed. I'm not going to lie. And so he comes over. He's like, you all right? I'm like, the fuck I'm all right. You need to take your own ass on back to your pits. I'm not talking to you right now. Don't start this shit with me. So the seriousness of it, which again, in One Fast Move was portrayed so well. Like in the very beginning, Dean goes out and gets fourth And because one guy got flagged or whatever, didn't get flagged, and he got fourth. He came in, he threw his helmet. I can't tell you how many times I've thrown my helmet before. I shouldn't do that stupid shit because those things are expensive.
Yeah. We know you're a bit of a drama queen. We know that.
I am.
No, that's the thing too. I can't believe somebody said nobody.
I love these stories, Opie, man. I remember we'd go out to eat after we'd shoot, and we just get these incredible stories from you and Stokes and Cutler and everybody. It's the best.
And I think that's part of the fun of it, Kelly, is just the bench racing.
Yeah.
Sitting around telling stories and talking about what we all love.
No, and that's honestly why I started this show, is because I had that thought while I'm sitting around with buddies, and my friends went on a Costa Rica trip and came back, and they're like, man, the best part was sitting around bullshitting, like, after we rode that day. And I was like, light bulb went off. I was like, dude, there's so many good stories out there. Give a place for people to send them in, and let them be shared.
I love it. You've got a purpose after all, Anthony.
Yeah.
No, I love this, Anthony. I love that you started this, because really that's what we did most of the time when we weren't shooting, and even the shoot became a story. And that's why I'm so curious. Like, I wonder if there's I don't want to take up all your show, but if there's another. I want to hear a story from you, Anthony. Like I guess the easy one is always like gnarliest crashes or something, but maybe that's a bit grim.
I can't.
Dude, I got one for you. So there's a local motocross track I used to ride at to train called Bremen MX. and I may be wrong on the location, but get this, Kelly. Anthony's a really good motocrosser, and I think he went over the bars on a 90-foot table, something like that. It was
that was when I was working at Freedom. So I hit a false neutral up the face of it.
Okay.
So kind of interesting to that. This goes back to my childhood. My cousin, who was like 32 years old, living in North Carolina, wanted to move to Tampa. We'd never met the family before. He gets my dad's number somehow, and he's a big street bike rider. When you and I went to lunch that time with Kevin Swantz, I called him afterwards to piss him off. Like, he's an avid motorcycle guy. But he was a paratrooper when he was in the Army.
Badass.
And I always remembered him saying, like, so they teach you when you're parachuting and you go to land to extend your body fully, and you collapse and you roll in and you roll out. You try to keep forward momentum. So that's somehow stuck with me in my head. So fast forward to from 16 years old to 23. I'm from Florida. I'm not going to do that math, right? So I literally it was fourth gear pin, like you shift from third to fourth at the very bottom.
On a 450.
On a 450.
Damn.
And to try to make it, it was right next. It was like a little table step down thing. And as I'm going up the face, it falls into a false neutral. And I'm always one, this was talked about on my last show, you don't bail off a bike because the bike has suspension. No matter how bad shit's going, let the initial hit be from the bike because it has suspension. However, when the bike is about, 30 degrees past whatever that would be, vertical, there's no bike anymore underneath you. And so at that point, I went into, like, I would just think about it while driving randomly at times. If you go into this situation, extend fully, roll out of it. And I remember my knee broke the base of the front part of my visor, broke the front of it. My knee did. It drove into it so hard. And then rolled out of it. I was on crutches for about 3 weeks is all. And I went and got my ankle checked because I thought my right ankle was broke. They're like, no, it's just a really bad sprain. I was like, what?
Damn.
But what the funny thing with that is that's what caused me to quit at Freedom Power Sports, where we were working together. And you may have been gone at that point. But yeah, the owner was like, and keep in mind, the year prior, they gave me a bike and $3,000 racing budget.
Yep.
So he came and told me, he's like, hey man, if you're going to, be hurting yourself a lot, then just not going to be able to work here anymore. I'm like, dude, I hurt myself on a dirt bike. This is a motorcycle. Like this.
What we do.
This is what we do kind of thing. Keep in mind, this same guy, and I'm not going to mention his name, didn't have a motorcycle license, and at a company grand opening, whiskey throttled into the side of a car door of a 9-year-old girl that was getting out and shattered her whole left leg.
That was my first day at work.
What's that?
That was my first day.
No shit.
At Freedom Power Sports. I could
my
not.
God.
Kelly, a helicopter landed in the middle of Cobb Parkway.
Yes.
And life flighted the girl away. It was the damnedest thing I'd ever seen.
No way.
It was insane.
Dude, I had to deal with so much legal bullshit from that because my mind, I've been around bad crashes so much in my life that my mind goes into, How do we make this better for people? What do we do in this situation? Like, if somebody's bleeding out, you know, you tie their leg off kind of thing. You make a fucking tourniquet kind of thing. So I got up, I assessed the situation, and I'm like, there's a motorcycle right here. I need to move that to gain access to the paramedics when they get in. It's in the middle of summer. It's hot as shit. I'm like, let's get this pop-up tent over the people that are dealing with this bad crash right here so they're not overheating as well as doing that. And because I moved the motorcycle, I had to talk to a lawyer like 20 different times for the whole bullshit.
No way.
Yes.
Kelly, it was nuts, man. I mean, there were like hundreds of people, you know, in this parking lot of this dealership, and the owner's father, I guess it was the owner, technically.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He wasn't the owner. He just told everybody he was the owner. Yeah.
So he's doing a burnout on like a big cruiser, and the tire hooks up, and there's a car all the way across the parking lot. And there's a little, like a 9-year-old girl.
Yeah.
She's stepping out of the back door of this 4-door car, and she gets her leg halfway out when the motorcycle hits that door.
Oh my gosh.
It throws the guy right.
He has no helmet on, splits his head.
No helmet, throws him over the back of the car. The little girl's injured. I mean, people are freaking out. Helicopter lands out in the middle of the road right up from there to life flight. It was her or him. I don't remember.
Both of them.
I guess it was both, yeah. I mean, it was.
Oh my gosh.
And that's day one. I'm like, holy shit! What did I sign up for?
That was your day one.
Yeah,
that was my day one.
That was the first day we worked together.
I was like,
no way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
way to jump in for the save though, Anthony.
Well, it's honestly so. Just a month and a half ago, I'm at the Pittner pump track. It's really close to my house. My kid's riding his little Stasic out there, and the top coping that's like 3 foot tall. He didn't break enough. It drops the front end. It starts to go. The seat grabbed his shirt and literally slingshotted him down to the ground. Now, he's 4 years old at this time. And I just casually walk over to him. And I'm just like, all right. And I run through the procedure. How many fingers am I holding up? What's your name? What's your birthday? I'm asking the question. And I look up at one point and I see these people just dumbfounded looking at me. And I'm like, and then I get them okay. I get them back. And somebody's like,
concussion protocol.
They're like, are you a paramedic? And I was like, no, I've been through this myself and with a lot of other people. Like, you just gotta remain calm in those kind of situations and figure that shit out. I don't know.
Concussions are no fun, man. Concussions are no fun.
I think it's been like 10 years since I've had one. I got to work on that.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah. But, yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah,
Shit, dude. Hey, you said you had a call at 8. Is it 8 you got to get off? Because it's 8:05.
No, it's 8:30. It's 8:30
Okay.
now. It got
Okay,
shifted
sweet.
in half hour. So I got, if you'll have me, I got some time to keep shooting it.
So, one of the things that I thought was the best, what the fuck would you call it? Just accessory to the scene or the shot?
Sure.
You'll tell me what it is, Kelly, in a second. But like in Dean, that was the house, right? In his house, you had the wood paneling walls, so it's old, and there's these fucking katana swords hanging above the couch. And I'm like, that is like the epitome of a bachelor pad, because there ain't no fucking way a dude with a chick or ever had a long relationship with a woman would allow him to have katana swords hanging above his couch in the living room.
Tracy made me put mine in the basement.
That's amazing. It's funny because a lot of people have mentioned those swords, which I love, and I can't take credit for that. That's our brilliant production designer, Freddie Woff, who just Dean's house. Everything was handpicked. I mean, that house didn't have wood paneling. He made the choice to put wood paneling in, decorated every single object from the dead plant to the pinup girls on the fridge. I mean, everything was just so well thought out, and that's a psychological thing. He has to read into who Dean is. But the swords, I thought exactly what you're saying is like the bachelor touch. Yes. And people have been like, Dean, of course Dean has those fucking swords. And I'm glad people are noticing that. I also noticed like I didn't notice when we were there, but in the edit when they're having their fight, Dean and Wes at the end, there's this like sort of picture of like two fighting tigers in water. What the hell was that about? I don't know if you noticed that.
I did. My wife did. Like, what is that? I'm like, I have no clue.
It goes along with
Yeah.
being a tiger with the like. Can't you just picture like him having one of those hoary girls over,
Oh, yeah.
drunk as shit, and he breaks out the katanas and stand in the background like
I'm gonna
showing,
cut your clothes
Dean
off.
Miller, speed killer,
Just butt naked. Just butt
So-
naked.
ball
standing
swinging
there with
one
his
way,
sword.
Johnson swinging the other time. Woof, woof.
So I was curious because I noticed on that refrigerator in Dean's house, well, and actually let me go back. So there's the scene between Myra Fico and KJ at the bar, right? And they're hanging out and then ultimately they dance and whatnot. And I'm like, man, I've got to figure out where that's at. I want to go there and see that. And so I'm like, where is that? And then I looked it up and it said Claremont Lounge, right?
Yeah.
So get this. So I've noticed when they're at Dean's house,
I thought that
there's
was-
this Claremont Lounge sticker on the side of the damn fridge. Like, get out of here.
You want a good laugh about the Claremont?
Yeah.
That's where my wife
Give
and
us
I
a
went.
Claremont story.
That's where my wife and I went for our bachelorette
No
party.
way.
And we, I'm not gonna say who all we took because she'll listen to this and be like, "Why'd you say that?" But yeah, well, I've
Epic.
been there 2 different times, and actually in the intro to my show, I don't know if you picked up onto it. It says coming to you
I heard
live from
that.
inside the Claremont Lounge.
I did hear
because
that.
I feel like it's just one. I kind of don't even want to mention it because what if somehow it gets me in trouble with them? But
What's
it's just one of those subtle things to where if somebody doesn't know about the Claremont Lounge, they're missing out. Kelly, do you actually know about it? Have you heard of it or been in there?
Yes, I have. So that's how we were in pre-production. We were searching for bars, and we stepped into the Claremont. And the minute I smelled it, I was like, "This is the place." This is the place. And we ended up hanging out there, and then I realized how infamous the Claremont was,
Yes.
and I was like, "We got to do everything we can to. This is where Dean lives half of his life."
Yep. It's
And
funny you say that because I'm
amazing.
watching the movie last night. I even went, "Is that the Claremont Lounge?" And I was like, "Well, maybe not. It's been 10 plus years since I've been there." So I was like, maybe it's not. I'm just thinking.
Or is
it
that just
so.
what you tell your wife that it's been 10 years since you've been?
No, look, if a strip club to me is like buying fake fruit when you're hungry. Okay,
all right.
that's not my thing. All right.
I like that. But Opie, actually, the bar that Wes and Camilla are hanging out in is not the Claremont. That's where
What?
Dean and Wes hang out. But the other bar is a place, I want to say, in this little neighborhood. It's called, was it a Highlands? The Upper Highland? The Highlands? Something the Highlands.
What city?
Okay.
Yeah, anyways, I forgot the name of that bar. But,
That's cool. I thought it was the same place.
I'll
So
send it to you.
the Claremont
Oh.
part was when the girl was in like a red bikini-ish kind of thing dancing on stage. That's what I thought was.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay,
that was
okay.
that.
But
yeah.
where Camilla and Wes are is someplace else. That's the Highlands.
That's in the Highlands. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll send you the name of that. when I
I've heard
find it.
of the Highlands as a different bar, like ones that have closed down and come. Like there was one
Yeah.
in Marietta at some
There was
point.
one down on Barrett Parkway
Yeah.
that Marietta Motorsports used to have their old bike nights
Yep.
back in the day when they were still in business.
Yep. I was thinking that too, but I couldn't remember if that was
Yep.
the name. But yeah.
I got to mention what was so fun about pre-production, aside from all the motorcycle prep, was finding bars. In research, me and Freddie and Lucas spent like a few weeks just touring bars in Atlanta for research, which
and
was pretty
sure,
fun. I have
strip
to
clubs
say.
too for the good of your movie.
For the good,
Yeah.
just research. It's research. Yeah.
Yeah, there was one
Yeah.
other thing, and I'm certainly not trying to hijack the talk, but there was something that did happen that hasn't been talked a lot about, that I got to be a part of. That was insane. So if you watch the beginning of the film, there is the street race that takes place between the opponent, which is kind of paying homage to Nicky Hayden, the RC51. Who that's Nicholas Decay. Nick Decay. So I thought, how cool is that? Guy named Nick wearing a Nicky Hayden helmet on an RC51. Thumbs up every time. And then, but if you notice, there's some different bikes being ridden. There's RC51. There's a GSXR 1000. So
Thank you for not saying Gixxer. That's a
I will
pain
never
point
say
of mine.
Gixxer.
Yes,
I
thank
mean,
you.
other than just them, I will never say it. But so it was so funny. One night on set, they're doing the burnout scenes and this and that, and for whatever reason, like all of the motorcycles break, and so like the RC51 blew out all the cush drive rubbers that go
Oh
inside the
yeah,
sprocket
yeah, the
carrier.
sprockets. Yep.
I think the GSXR 1000 needed a fuel pump. There was just all these different bikes that
Yeah.
needed all these random parts. So Cutler shows up at the shop the next day, and he was like, dude, I need tires, I need cush drive rubbers for an RC51, and he just had this whole list of parts.
And you just steal them out of customers'
I
bikes.
totally stole them out of customers' bikes.
But the nice thing is they got brand new parts.
Well, what I did
Yeah.
is I thought, okay, here's what I'm going to do. They've got to have this stuff right now, or the film. And people had told me this. Even Casey Richter mentioned this to me at one point. He was like, dude, we got to have this stuff. Even John Cooper had mentioned it. We're like, if we don't have this stuff, filming stops.
Yeah.
We've got to fix these today. So I literally start going through my shop, and I'm like, okay, that customer's left that bike here for a year. Yeah, I'm robbing that shit. And I start taking stuff off customers' bikes. Now, and obviously, the movie paid for that stuff, so I could put back on there. I didn't quote unquote steal anything,
yeah.
but I made shit happen when I had to make shit happen.
Yeah.
And so
Opie.
what's that?
Sorry, continue.
No, I was just going to say, I remember one of the first days we were on set, the first time I remember really talking to you, Kelly, you were like, I heard you saved the movie. And I'm like, I don't know if I did that, but I did everything I could to make sure that everything's going. So it was
that's before you saved the movie multiple times after that, I will say.
So how many times did he
just
save the
went-
movie? And how much more is he getting paid because of that?
no.
I mean, I'm sure there's stuff, Opie, I'm still finding out stuff about the stuff that you and Stokes and Cutler did in the trenches to get, because as you know, there were on this film, and I think on most films, there are days where it really is a turning point of like, I mean, I'll mention one. Okay, so we had, because of the rain and the weather, we literally had, I want to say, a couple hours to shoot most of the bulk of the final race before the sun went down. You remember this, Opie?
Yes, sir. Yes,
The
sir.
that last day at Road Atlanta.
And you need the
And-
lighting. Like you can't wait until it's at dusk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can't wait. So we're hustling, and we set up a pit tent basically of the camera bike, of the camera race car, and all this stuff, and the helicopter. I mean, we did this stuff in 2 hours, and Opie jumps on the back of that bike with all the pressure of the film essentially, and this race working, and just honestly no hesitation. It didn't seem like it was stressful at all to you, and you just whipped around that track, weaving in and out of bikes to get us those shots. I remember going through the footage in the edit, and I just was like saying, thank God for Opie. Because honestly, it's true, man, because we literally had like 1 or 2 laps. If we didn't have certain shots that you did, we couldn't have made the race work. It was one of those things. So
Well, I am completely humbled that you said that, and appreciative and thankful, and thankful for the opportunity. I remember your wife said something to me at one point after we got it done. And I think Mr. Greg Smurs was like, hey, we got it. We got the shot. I can't remember the exact conversation, but Evangeline said something to me that was so sweet. And because everybody was happy we got it, and so I was sitting there, and I am the type, Kelly, and I'm sure you saw that on set, and it's just who I am. It's how I work. I'm going to do everything I can in my power to make it happen every time. That's who I am. And that I live that every day in every facet of my life. And so, but Evangeline, as we were talking about, man, we got all this done, everything worked. Evangeline said, and I didn't take it literally, and it was certainly a huge compliment. And she said something to the effect of, "This is your movie, Opie." And I'm like, "No, ma'am, this is not my movie. This is Kelly's movie. I'm just thrilled to be a part of it." And it was seriously.
I know what she was saying. I know what she was saying, because she said, "This is." You've lived this, you've lived, this is your life, this is your world, this is the world you live in, and it's your passion. And I know she was saying that because, although I love motorcycles and motorcycles have changed our lives, me and my wife, this is your world. We were shooting at your home track in Georgia. And so I know exactly what she meant.
And it's wild too, because I remember you were talking about how little time we had to get those shots. And I remember going out, filming the kill switch scene, which was incredible. It was absolutely incredible how we did that. We did it, if I remember correctly, 5 or 6 times. And I remember thinking, like, the last 2 times we did it, I'm like, it's almost dark. And I had even mentioned something about that to Greg when we came back in, and I forget who it was. It was one of the camera guys or one of the assistants for Greg. He's like, "No way, man, we can open up the aperture or do this on the camera or whatever, and we're good."
Yeah.
And man, it fits in the movie so well with the lighting and everything, and just I so love that last race scene because one of the things that you'll notice in the movie when you watch it, Anthony, and everybody else that's listening, is you're going to see the bike has some vibration, and you'll see that. And I can tell you from being on a motorcycle and going around that track that fast for that many years, sometimes that's what it actually looks like.
Yeah.
You know, and if you get offline a little bit or anything like that, where, you know, the cars ripple up the pavement in
They
different
create like
places.
braking bumps or acceleration
Absolutely.
bumps.
And so we got to ride. It was so awesome. I was so thankful when they said we could do it. We got to ride the old turn 12, the fast.
Oh, yeah.
turn.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God, it's amazing. When they said that, I mean, I was like, it's awesome. And
Yeah,
so,
except
but
for the fact you're doing like what, $140 this fucking
usually,
scary
I mean,
ass turn.
that's a good speed to that. Yeah. But the cars, from all the cars there, the outside wheel.
Oh,
of
the cars still use it, I think,
Yes, they
right?
do.
Yeah.
And so the cars there, the outside wheel ripples up the pavement. But where you're at on a motorcycle, if you're apexing correctly, you know, your knee and your elbow are kind of up over the curb and you're in much tighter. So the pavement there was smooth. You know, it wasn't dirty. The track people did a great job cleaning the place. And it was, man, it was just a treat to get to ride the old turn 12 again.
Yeah.
And so,
And I'm so glad that you know, that we really invited that shake. I wanted it to feel visceral and rough. You know, we like the idiosyncrasies with the camera. And, you know, I do have to also make a shout to all the racers. You know, I remember before that last thing where we had basically the entire film on the line, you know, you huddled up with the racers in the racer what do you call it, booth 10. You guys had a hut.
Yep.
And you huddled everybody and you got everybody focused. I remember I came up to you before and I go, Opie, we're probably going to have about an hour and a half or something to shoot this. And you said, I will have these racers ready to pull the trigger when you give me the go ahead. And we ran over there and gave you the go ahead to get those I won't say guys, because also Jessica Capizzi was in there, you know, and saying, you got them ready. And everyone just gave it their all. And I get emotional talking about it.
and it was so cool. Everybody, you know, everybody realized. And I'll say, I want to give credit to Dave Cutler, because before that I got everybody together, you know, Cutler really made it clear to me, like, listen, man, you know, we need this to happen, and it has to be this certain way. And, you know, it was really hard for me as a racer to kind of turn my racer brain off.
Yeah.
And learn that, you know, it's all about getting the shot. It's not about who's in front at that point.
Yeah.
That's in the script. That's already predetermined. You just got to get the shot, and everybody needs to be where they're at, and not trying to. We're not trying to race each other. That's not what we're doing here. And so I'm with you, Kelly. I thought everybody did a great job. When we pulled the trigger, everybody was ready, and I just felt like everybody gave it their best.
Absolutely. And I have to also, you mentioned Dave again. I have to give Dave Cutler a massive shout. First, he was smart enough to bring you in as well, and so many people in, and he gave his all. I know it was so personal. This movie was so personal for him, both from his own story and obviously his giving his life being motorcycles. And he just brought everything from bike builds to design, calling in every favor, and obviously doubling KJ, sweating it out, getting heat stroke out there. I mean,
he
you know,
was talking to me about that
you know,
last night.
the pride that you and Dave and everyone else in Stokes, and obviously Kevin Waterman and Rudy, the coordinators, have, it means a lot to me. So
I was going to say, one of the things I've seen when you start mentioning Kevin Waterman and Rudy and Eddie and all these other guys, there's been a couple of clips that's been released that were kind of behind the scenes type stuff where KJ's talking.
I've been seeing that. Yeah,
man, it is awesome. It is so awesome. Even my Rafiki was like, I can't wait to sit back and watch the stuff and see the stunt team kill it.
Yeah.
And it was like, that is so cool that one of the, you know, the main stars that's going to help create the entire storyline is stoked to see what the stunt team is doing. It was just so cool. I was like, that's really cool. I appreciate that. I think everybody did.
So,
yeah.
any other names you guys want to drop since you're name dropping all these guys? Jeez.
Man, I can't remember.
Oh, I know. Well, first, I'm gonna name drop you, Anthony, to thank you before I have to jump off. To thank you for for having me and having us, and having the space to talk about this film that we care about so much, and
and
for
we're
you
gonna.
watching the film, and of course.
I was gonna say we're gonna get you back to Atlanta soon. I told you once a month. I'm just send you a text. I'm not gonna be too buggy. I'm not gonna be too cringy. I'm just gonna be like, when you come into ATL, and that's all it's gonna be. Because I want to get you in studio at some point.
Don't twist my arm, man. Me and my wife are always planning on it. Our yearly Atlanta trip, which we've kept up since we left. So I think we might be coming in early October. So soon enough.
So. There's a badass. I was just talking with some of the guys yesterday, or Matt yesterday, your son. There's a grass track race for charity the weekend
we're gonna go do a track
of the
day.
19th.
We're gonna go do a track.
19th and 20th. There's going to be a vintage day and modern support on Saturday, and that's where I was telling you I might ride the 500, and then modern day on the 20th. And oddly enough, oh damn it, I don't care if I have to kick him off. Jake Mormon's scheduled for a show on the 17th, so if I got to kick him off for that, whatever. But no, like that's cool to hear if you're going to do it in October. We'll definitely try to link up for that. And like I even told you before, I don't care if it doesn't have to be the Thursday that it's scheduled on. I'll change it around for whatever. So.
Oh, thank you. No, I'll let you know. I think it's going to be the first couple of weeks. So I think we're going to try to make the Barber Vintage Days and make a.
That's
make
the
a trip
weekend
out of.
before, and Mill
cool.
Creek, which was down the road from them, is actually building a motocross track at Barber right now. So that's even right up my alley.
Cool.
And they're supposed to that weekend be doing stuff. And my uncle comes up every year for that race. So that'd be cool. I'll break out the Class A motorhome. I'll bring it out there for everybody.
Heck yeah, I love it.
But well, we got 6.
Opie, did you want to give some more shouts before I got to jump off?
No, I certainly didn't want to hold you up, but the entire crew that you assembled, Kelly. I mean, literally, this thing was grade A from the top, and getting to work with Rudy, getting to work with Waterman and Eddie, of course, one of my childhood heroes. Greg Smurris. Actually, after we went and viewed the movie last night, my neighbor went around and he got on your Instagram, Kelly, and there's a picture of it was either right before or right after we did those shots that you were mentioning earlier, and it's me and one of the camera guys and Greg Smurfs. So it was cool to get to work with Greg. Yes. That was neat, and man, it's incredible. Everything was incredible, and I'm so honored and privileged and blessed to have had the opportunity. And for certain, I'm going to be looking for you come early October.
I can't wait. We're having a reunion.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I'm honestly, Opie will tell you this. I'm not a big thank you guy and all this over the top stuff, but I got to say thank you, Kelly, because I literally added you as a friend on Facebook, slid into your DMs, and anybody like on a normal, I'm like, hey man, like I love what you did with the movie. Like I do this show and I'd like to have you on at some point. Your average person, especially somebody who does movies, is just going to be like, fuck this guy.
Yeah. Who's this guy?
Yeah, like fucking no. So that was really cool for you to respond to that and to then call me up. We talked for like 20 minutes and that was really cool of you to do. And I had the honor to just thank you for making this movie because I just
got so many people talking. It's got so many people amped up and into riding and into going and doing track days. And it's just such a great motivator. And it's great. It's great.
Yeah. But thanks for not being that guy and actually responding and taking the time. And we'll link up soon.
Absolutely, Kelly.
Are you kidding?
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, of course. No, thanks for saying that, Anthony. Of course. Well, first, any friend of Opie is a brother of mine, and of course, man. I mean, I made this film for many reasons, but one was to share the love of motorcycles and motorcycle racing and anything having to do with two wheels. And I really was so excited to share this with the community, and so of course, this means the world to me that you're embracing it and also giving me the space to be able to talk about the experience.
Well, cool. Anytime, man.
Thank you, Kelly, and hey, please give my best to Evangeline.
You got a crush on his wife, dude?
Your family's.
No, she's so cool.
I think she's got a crush. She's got a crush on him.
Oh, come on now. She comes riding in on I think she was riding like a Tiger 1200 or something.
No
I'm
shit.
like, that is awesome.
Oh, she's a badass. She is a badass.
Awesome.
Yeah. Take care, my friend. It was great. Great talking to you. And thank you.
Thank you both.
Yeah, we'll talk soon, man. See you.
Okay, talk soon. Thanks.
Later.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. He's Hollywood, A-list, whatever whatever.
Dude,
thing
I looked him up on IMDb,
Bro's
and I
for
was
real.
like, holy shit.
Dude, he is the man. And what I love about it is when you think about motorcyclists,
Hmm.
even the baddest ass dude on the racetrack will be the most humble guy.
Yeah.
And what I love, Kelly invested in, if you listen to some of his stuff talking about the making of the movie, he started taking notes in 2017. It took him 7 years to bring his vision, but by the time it's all said and done, 7 years to get his vision into a theater, into Amazon Prime and on the streaming. But just his devotion to it, his love for the sport, it just goes to show that. And here he is. He called up.
Yeah.
You of all people.
I'm
and
a fucking nobody.
and so I will say this: I paid him a lot of money to say all that nice stuff about me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just don't let your listeners know that. But no, I mean he's so.
I'll edit that out of the live show.
Okay, thank you. But no, he's so down to earth, and it's you can tell with Kelly, with his wife Evangeline, at their core, they're me and you. They're motorcycle people.
Yeah.
I love motorcycle people for that because I think motorcycle people are a different breed. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of screws loose as well.
Sure.
But it was cool to hear you talk about how you met your wife at Road Atlanta and you saw that picture, and then he brings up that he did, and that's a big part with me too.
So there's a part
motorcycles that what brought my wife and I together.
There's a part of that I left out, right? So about me and her meeting. So she is there with a friend of mine that used to race, and they had gone together. I think they had dated a little while, but they had gone to University of Tennessee together. And so he comes down to watch me race, and he called her up. She had moved to Atlanta. She got recruited by Bell South, right after the Olympics, and she moved here to take a job after she.
What, like 94 then, right?
95.
90, okay, I couldn't
So-
remember exactly the year.
So the going back to the funny part is there's this picture that exists where we hadn't even met yet, but Tracy is
Your wife, Tracy.
my wife Tracy. She loves to drink beer and watch football, have chili, and enjoy that fall time in the year to enjoy that sport. And so what was funny, it was the GNF, the Grand National Finals at Road Atlanta. It was October, and she had been drinking beer and she needed to pee. So she needed to ride this little 50cc. It was a Honda Z50 up to the bathroom. But she couldn't figure out how to start it. And I'm like, "Do you even know how to ride it?" And she's like, "No, but I got to pee and I got to go."
Yeah.
And so the way I ended up being, I was like, "Move out of the way. I'll start the bike up and I'll double you up to the bathroom so you can." I didn't want her to crash or do something. So she can actually ride a motorcycle, 4-wheeler, bicycles, whatever. But
So you didn't just click it into second gear and let her go. You rode with her.
I actually got on the motorcycle.
Trying to go nut
sit
to
up,
butt. All
hop
right.
on the back,
Yeah. Smooth
and
move, smooth
made
move.
sure she got to the bathroom safely and all that. And I guess that was enough. I'll say this after being married for almost 25 years now. She's got really good at constantly, very slightly lowering her expectations of me, and I think that's why we're still married.
Yeah. I don't know how Megan and I have been together 14 years, so I don't know how.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Here's a funny question for you.
Yes, sir.
You knowing me, my bachelorist of bachelor days, did you think I would even be where I'm at with this house and the
Well, I'll say
wife
this.
and kids?
I would have thought you had kids.
Not
but-
kids, wife
Well, I
and
would
kid.
thought you would have a kid, but probably illegitimately. And,
Yes.
and who knows
That's fair.
who with or where the mom's even
Yeah.
at, and so you're definitely a home wrecker, so but to put all this together, I'm pretty impressed.
One of the nicest compliments I ever got from this dude, Joey Kinsey, and he came over to get Motocross the Nations tickets from me in 2018, and I ended up getting some for free after I bought them, and I was like, "Hey, I'll sell them to you for a deal." So he comes over to this house to pick it up, and he goes, "Holy shit, you're an adult." It's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me because he's only known me from the track and the shit I say on social media.
Right.
Because I like to fuck with people and I do stupid shit. But yeah, it doesn't mean you have to not have your shit in order.
Right.
You
So it
know?
didn't look like Dean's house, is what you're saying. It looked
No.
pretty good.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, that was one of the funniest things to hear you.
That is all.
to hear him say
Okay,
that.
so I got a question for you.
All right.
When we worked together at Freedom, not like together, you know, but
We weren't dating. no.
right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. We were just, you know, holding hands.
Yeah, or
Um,
kissing me on the cheek. 'cause you
Right,
lost a
right.
bet.
Which
yeah.
you've got a picture somewhere. There was a guy that used to come by and hang out, and his name was Brian or
Yeah,
something.
no, I don't even want to talk about Brian.
No, I'm just whatever
honestly.
happened to him.
Um,
Is it bad? Should
I'm
I
not going
know?
to say his last name, but he was one of those people who you'd see him screw over people every now and then,
Oh, okay,
and then
okay.
you'd be like, he wouldn't do that to me. Like we're really good friends.
Yeah.
And then he was living with us at one point at our old house, and literally like shit started to hit the fan, and it was like, dude, this isn't working. You got to go somewhere. And tried. Megan was really smart about how she handled it, but like made him basically not skip out on rent because she knew that he had a thing for that. But then we also were like, hey, when you're moving out, we want to be home to make sure that this is going on. This is the date we agreed upon. We had it like in writing or whatever. So of
Right.
course the day before, or hours before, he moved out and took stupid shit just to be petty, like the laundry basket or a fucking poster that was on the wall, like stupid shit, to where it was just like, dude, we've been friends for really good friends for a long time, and
Right.
just to do that shit. But it's one of those honest like life lessons where you learn where if somebody is screwing over other people, don't think they won't do that to me. 'cause
You're on
they're-
the list
You're on the
somewhere.
list to get
Yeah.
fucked over.
Right.
Yeah. So
My bad. I didn't mean to take it. Like
no,
a
no,
downward
I just
kinda-
didn't want to say his last name. I'm
Sure.
not going down that. No, I'm not gonna call
Was it
somebody out.
Brian? Was that? his
Yeah,
name? Okay.
that was his first
That's
name.
all I remember. And then there was another guy that worked there, and
Heath.
bam.
I haven't talked to Heath for a long time, and it was kind of funny because Megan and I were really good friends for a long time, and then one drunken party, things kind of happened. And then our house has always almost been a halfway house. Like our
Right.
old house, honestly, we've had a lot of people who have gone from being married to divorces that have stayed in this room. Like
Right.
this used to be a bedroom before I turned it into this. And so we've always had this like
Wait,
weird
is there stuff
halfway.
happen on this couch?
No, in fact, there's a sign there that says not for casting. So
Okay,
you're
good
good.
deal. All right.
Yeah.
Man, thank you. I
Yeah.
was worried.
Right there. There's the sign. I changed the camera angle so they
Okay.
can see it better, just in case they missed it. But no. So our house has always been the halfway house. So he was living with us after his divorce, right as Megan and I were first in the very beginning of the relationship. So he's going through this terrible time. We're in this honeymoon stage. So it just that wasn't it. But like we kind of after he moved out, like a half later, we went up to Calhoun and we kind of just lost touch base. There was a few times we went to like Sand Mountain and other
Okay.
times, but nothing like, bad that happened. Just
Sure.
grow
A
apart
falling
little bit.
out.
Yeah, yeah. Not well. I don't even
Not
say
like
falling.
like
If I was to get his number somehow and be like, hey man, do you still ride? He'd be like, yeah, we go riding all the time, kind of things. Or no, he doesn't. But we just like, and that's a big part of like social media too. Like if somebody isn't using it anymore, you kind of lose touch a little. So I think that was kind of more it, but nothing bad. I saw him not too long.
He popped in my brain when we were talking because he used to come by the shop and hang out. And
Yeah.
when we were at Freedom, and he was a funny guy. And
Well, he worked there with us.
did he work there for a while?
Yeah, he worked there with us.
Did he really?
Unless you're thinking about somebody else. Are we talking about the guy that's kind of my build and height, or are we talking about the guy that was like short Mexican looking?
No,
dude?
no, no. He
Okay.
was your height.
Yeah, that's Heath then.
Yeah. I think
Yep.
that has to be him.
Yep.
That's
No,
wild.
I mean nothing bad there, but yeah, he's got. Last I knew, she had kids, he had kids, kind of thing. We're up in Redbud, Georgia, kind of north of Calhoun, like
Okay.
the next exit.
Gotcha.
That kind of thing. But
Very cool.
all right, let me take away the Kelly Opie questions. Things
Man,
that I
that
had
was
set
cool, getting to
aside.
talk to
Yeah, I
Kelly.
wanted to make sure to not tell you that I was calling him in because just as a surprise and just be more authentic with you.
No, it's just again, I can't say enough about Kelly and the whole movie thing. Just, it really, I won't say it changed me per se, but definitely gave me some new perspective and an appreciation for him and who he is and his efforts to do that and of course what he brought to the screen. Not just because I'm in it. I mean, it's that certainly helps.
Sure, that's not
yeah.
No, I'm not like you got to be a part of it. So there's definitely a lot more closer to your heart with it than just the average Joe that's watching it. But still, I mean, I
I kind of wonder, am I a little more connected to it too? Because I have a bunch of people that I know that were partaking in it. Or
Sure.
it's like,
well, and he said your name, so it's like the 6 degrees of Anthony Bennett.
yeah, that's not going to get that game wouldn't get very far. But real quick, I do have to pay some bills, so I'm
right.
going to go to play one of my sponsor reads real quick.
Our next segment is brought to you by Hard Knocks Racing, dedicated motorcycle enthusiast in 1998. Go to for Campfire Moto official gear, launch an apparel line of they excel in crafting all kinds of custom decals, like this badass sign behind me, from custom signs to bus wraps and office customization. In fact, check out this work Anthony did at one of the well-known Japanese manufacturers on nameless. They also crafted a prestigious Harry Mountain 24-hour race, classic, take a hairspray, many more for local racetracks in the Southeast. Check out hardknocksracing.com. Anthony D'Amico a call at 4717.
Hey, we're back. Okay.
I'm
Had to pay
back.
some bills.
I'm
So
back.
I want to ask you about this picture. Tell me what's going on here.
Where the hell did you get that?
Don't ask about my sources, sir.
What garage is that
So-
in? Is that the Yosh tent?
That's a shirt that says Opie ain't shit. So, what do you remember about that?
Wow. Where is that at?
I don't know. Dave Cryer texted to me.
Dave Cryer. I should have known. Okay. So Opie ain't shit. So that was coined by someone you're probably going to remember the name of, Mr. Rodney Sargent.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And well, let me go back. It's actually a
I
little bit-
texted him to come with me last night
Okay.
as my date, and he blew me off. Didn't even text me. I'm a good kiss. I think I'm a good kisser. Maybe. Like,
Rodney's busy, and
he was actually riding on Wednesdays. He goes and ride bikes
He
with
goes and rides-
Grayson and a few buddies. You know, he lives like 7 minutes from me.
no way.
Yeah, yeah, he's close.
I'm gonna like go roll the place when I leave here.
Dude, let's go.
Okay.
We'll go TP the place when we
Let's
get
do
out
it.
of here.
So
I'm not kidding.
okay. You got toilet paper? Let's go.
Yes.
Is it used or not?
It can be.
Okay.
Shit.
So what had happened was, Cryer is who created these shirts, and so what had happened was I had a customer at my shop, Caylor Motorsports, and there was this guy. His name was Brandon, and Brandon rode an R1, and between Brandon and I, we had this mutual friend that we call, oh my god, his name I just went blank. Slick Will.
Okay.
So Brandon and Slick Will, right? So when Slick Will first came to the shop, I think he had a GSX-R 1000, like 07, 08, something like that. And I came to the shop, I did some work for him, and saw all my old trophies and crap, hanging around. And we just talked. I told him a little bit about my background and racing and whatever. And he was like, all right, cool, So at some point, Slick Will heads home. Him and Brandon ride together a lot, and he's mentioning to Brandon about this Opie guy. And so, evidently Slick Will, I don't think he was like interested in me, like that. But like, wow, I mean, this Opie guy's pretty cool. He won some races, pretty cool for a white guy.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Pretty
And-
fly
and-
for a white guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm always appreciative of that. I love being accepted within the entire motorcycle community because there's so many different people from so many different walks of
Yep.
life. And I love that because if we got motorcycles in
Heck,
common,
the showing last night's a good example of that. There was
Absolutely.
the two-load guy from Brazil.
Yep.
There was a black dude I was talking to in
Yep.
line while I was getting my food, and
Couple white folk?
Yeah, a couple white folk. Yeah.
and so no, I love that about motorcycles. It doesn't matter where you're from or who you are, what you look like. If
Yep.
you ride, you ride.
Yep.
And I love it for that. So Slick Will is telling Brandon about Opie Caylor, Caylor May Motorsports, all that stuff. And the way Slick Will told me was, Brandon's like, man, why are you on that dude's nuts? Opie ain't shit. And so it's, and I told the story to a couple people, Dave Cryer included. And so this went on for a little while. And then I guess it was probably 2014, 2015, something like that. We all get together and do a track day at Road Atlanta. So it's me, Dave Cryer, a couple of our good buddies that ride on the track. And I had gone on my trailer to get my gear on. Everybody else pitted to my side. We were pitted on the shelf up at Road Atlanta. I go in my trailer while my bike's idling and warming up. I come back outside, and everybody's in their leathers, but everybody's got these damn shirts on. And I'm looking and I'm like, Opie ain't shit. I want one of those things, damn it. And so it was so funny. I don't know. I mean, I remember corner workers. I went out the road with a shirt on.
The corners workers.
They let us do like a couple of parade laps wearing those over our leathers, and all their corner workers were waving and doing their flags and everything. And it was really cool, man. It was really cool because just the story behind it. And Brandon, unfortunately, we lost him in an accident some years ago. And it was cool because I had one of those shirts, and I did go to the funeral. I attended. And
did you wear the shirt?
I didn't, but his mom was there, and I took her my shirt, and I gave it to her, and I told her the whole story. And I said, I just want you to know Brandon was special to me. He was a good friend, good motorcycle rider, and just someone I enjoyed talking to. Hell, one day he rolled in the shop, and he came in. He still had an R1 at this point. He rolls in the shop, gets his helmet and jacket off, and he sits down in a chair. And he's like, man, if any cops come in here, I've been here for like an hour. And I'm like, holy shit, what have you been doing? And so he was that type of guy. He was awesome. He was so much fun to hang out with. But yeah, so Brandon started it. Dave Cryer brought it to print, and I wore it proudly. Opie ain't shit.
Yeah. So he also texted me a few other things. So I don't feel like this is motorcycle related. Chocolate covered Oreos?
Ah, he told you my secret. Damn it.
Is that your secret to going fast on the track?
It is, actually.
Is that the secret to that dad bod you've got, too?
Oh, dude, I'm rocking it well. I just want to say.
Hey, I'm working on mine.
So. You got to pump up the numbers a little bit, bro. So no, chocolate-covered Oreos. Oh, wow. That takes me back. So in the early 2000s, it became a fad. I won't say a fad, but a lot of people went this direction. In racing, you probably dealt with this before. Arm pump.
I don't get it too often, honestly. No.
So at certain tracks, I would get it, and basically what it is.
Somebody's listening to this going, "Fuck that guy."
Right. the forearms, the muscle. It's almost like too much blood gets in there.
I've had it before, but yeah, I don't get it too often. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. So basically, your muscles are expanding faster than the
sheathing
fascia can expand. So there's even people that have those surgeries that go in and have them clipped, but then it can grow back from
the fad was, and again, I say a fad, it was people were doing it, and hopefully it was effective. But I had plenty of friends in the AMA paddock that had 4 to 5 inch slits on both forearms. Excuse me. And so these guys would get the surgery done. And so there was this guy, my crew chief at the time when I was racing AMA, was a fella who worked for Yoshimura Suzuki. He was a crew chief for Jason Pridmore when JP rode Superbikes. And he even got to work for Nicky Hayden when Nicky Hayden was riding for Hypercycle. And his name was Grant Matsushima. And Grant, Japanese Hawaiian, tremendous knowledge, tremendous experience. I loved riding for him because he was always hard on me and always pushed me. And I mean, he would bust my balls, but I always rode better because of him. I really believe that. And so, Jeremiah Johnson, his friend from Hawaii, we get talking one day, and he was like, dude, there's natural pain relievers in certain chocolates. I'm like, really? Well, I'm a cookie monster, so I'm like, well, shit, I'll go for that. What do you got? Let's eat. And so we get to talking, and Jeremiah's like, no, you got to get Oreos. And I'm like, okay, cool. That's, the little chocolate wafers and the white vanilla cream. And he goes, oh, no. Not the white vanilla. Chocolate cream. I'm like, oh. So, man, every time, from then on, I would go to the store every weekend before a race, and I would get me an entire container of chocolate Oreos. And, man, I just sit there and working them things. Gatorade, chocolate Oreo. Gatorade, chocolate Oreo. Then chase it with the water. And because really, I mean, you know the importance of hydration and all that.
I don't know if the Gatorade's the best thing for hydration.
Yeah, but I would cut it with water.
Okay.
So, yeah, the chocolate Oreos, I never had to get arm pump surgery. Just saying. That worked for me. So
did you have did you have any problems with people taking them from you, and then you'd have to be like, man, leave my fucking Oreos alone?
What the problem was? Whoever the little asshole was, I could never figure it out. I would come back around the corner, and I'm like, who the fuck is taking my cookies? So yeah, and then Grant started calling me Cookie Monster, and
So you still don't know.
I still don't know who
All
ate
right.
my damn cookies.
All right, we're gonna investigate this. All right,
We need to.
we
Damn
need
it.
to get the fucking FBI involved. We're getting the FBI involved. We're gonna find out who was eating your cookies.
And then, damn
it
it,
was probably Dave
I want to be paid back. I want my cookies. It might have been Dave.
with interest. You want it- you
Hell
want to be
yeah,
paid
I
back,
need
yeah.
some stock in. Is it Nabisco? I think that makes those
All right.
things or whatever. Yeah, I'm still bitter about the damn cookies.
So that's a good segue into this next thing he told me to ask. This is the last one. Coffee with Opie, black coffee, sugar and cream, but you count to 47 seconds, and he started out at 13, but you went to 11. So explain your process to the people. Now, keep in mind, Opie's race number is 47.
Gotta represent.
So tell us your whole coffee cream 47 seconds thing.
Lee Acree, good friend of mine, fellow Schwantz School instructor, great racer, and a lifelong friend, even though we haven't spoken in a while, got me addicted to coffee when we were racing AMA and traveling all over the country in his motorhome. And so I would get the coffee, and he got me addicted to Starbucks, right? So I remember one time we were
What
going,
an asshole.
I know, right? You know how much that shit costs? And so we're in, I'll never forget, we're in Colorado. We are driving up, I think, I-35, and we're going to race at a track. And it was an old NASCAR track, but it was called Pikes Peak International Raceway.
Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah, I've
NASCAR
heard of
track.
it.
It's a total shithole. But we're in the fast lane. He's got that thing matted. We're pulling a trailer, and the trailer's doing this shit, and we're kind of going along with it. And then all of a sudden, you see this big sign, Starbucks, right? Well, we're in the far left lane. Now, at the time, I-35 had 3 lanes and an exit lane. So he was like, right turn, and so I don't know how many people we cut off, people flipping us off and all that. So, we pull in there, and one day, and I'm like, and I don't remember, it was early in the morning. We were just trying to get to the track so we would get there in time for promoter practice and all that. And so Lee likes a certain mixture. He's like, I want a, frappuccino, whatever. I don't know what he would call it, but I grew up drinking just coffee with creamer or milk and sugar. And so it really pissed me off when they took away the constant pours and started adding the little packets, because I'm really fucking messy. And you can ask my wife about this. Sugar goes everywhere. And so they had a constant pour there, and I'm like, this is brilliant. So I thought, well, how much do I don't know how much to put in. And then I thought, go. And I count to 13. And so the 47 thing, man, I'd have been cracked out. I couldn't have done that. But
I was thinking that was a lot of fucking sugar.
But
47 seconds.
But 13 seconds is a lot of sugar, right? So for some reason, I ended up on 13, and that gave me the taste and the flavor I wanted. So I'm like, 13's my number. But the fucking problem is sometimes the constant pour gets all boogered up at the top, and it doesn't pour as fast. So I'm like, shit, this might be a 20, that might be an 8, So I thought, well, okay, 13's unhealthy. I don't like that number. I'm a little, you know how racers are, a little freaked out about weird numbers. So my birthday, and I have all these weird correlations to the number.
September 11.
Bam.
Yep.
So I have
know
all
your
these weird
birthday.
correlations to the number 11. So I thought, ooh, 11 has always served me well. 11 it is. So what I did is I kind of switched up my process. I always clean the constant pour, and then I do 11 seconds. That way I get my full 11 seconds. The constant pour is clean. I'm happy. The coffee tastes great, and we're driving.
So that actually reminds me, I was going to ask, I didn't even write this down, but I thought to it and I forgot to put it down. Like, what weird superstitions do you have? And actually, before we can get to that, because you made the mention about 9/11, you know that my last road race was on your birthday on the 10-year anniversary of 9/11.
No
Yeah.
way.
So 9/11/2011, because the next day I went to work for where I am now.
Okay.
Which we'll talk about. But yeah, so
That's cool.
that was my last road race, and I always remember your birthday mainly because I feel like you're responsible.
I didn't do that shit.
On your birthday, but
And I'll say this, just a quick little side note. That was a wild day. My wife, I literally had just gotten back from Denver, Colorado, actually Castle Rock, Colorado, where her parents lived, and we were landing at Atlanta Airport, Hartsfield Jackson, and we land, And the plane just sits there. It gets off the runway, so we don't get ass packed or anything like that from another jet. But we're kind of over here, but they would not let us approach the gate. And I remember when we got on the plane, and I'm not that guy, I'm not weird like that, but I remember getting on the plane.
You are.
Okay, maybe I am, but I'm not going to admit it here on live TV or live at the live podcast. So, but there was this guy that got on the plane in Colorado, and he had a briefcase, and I'll never forget this. He is trying to figure out where to put his briefcase, but he's holding the briefcase like this, and the dude is pouring sweat. And I remember walking by him, I'm like, ain't that hot in here? Kind of fucking weird, but whatever.
Probably methed out.
And of course, I don't know, man. It was weird. It was weird. It was just weird. So, but I'm like, what the fuck's in the briefcase? So anyway,
What's in the box?
right. So we fly home, and again, this is September 10th,
Yeah.
2001. We land.
No, 2011, right?
No, 2001.
Oh, so this is okay.
This is
We're not talking about my last day. Okay.
Yes, yeah. So
okay.
I'm going back. So we land. Plane sits. We sat there for 45 minutes on the tarmac before they would even let us pull up to the gate. I thought that's weird, and so it turned out that plane had a connecting flight to Florida after it dropped off all the Atlanta people, right? So we finally get clearance to approach the gate. We pull up to the gate, and the pilot comes over. He says, "Okay, guys, if you're flying home to Atlanta today, and Atlanta's where you live, welcome home. We appreciate you flying with Delta. And then if you're on the connecting flight headed to Florida from I don't remember what part of Florida, but if you're on the connecting flight,
Probably Miami. From what
Probably.
I'm gathering of
Right.
where this is going. Yeah.
all the sussy stuff. And so you need to find another plane. See the gate or see the person at the gate, the Delta, people or whatever, and they're going to find you another plane. This plane is grounded. And I thought, man, that's weird. Oh well, we're home. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
I'm off this mother. So and then of course, so the crazy thing was, coming full circle to TTR 125. My wife had bought me a TTR 125.
Yeah, I was gonna say your TTR, not our TTR
Yep.
story, because you guys used to have a little cool track setup. You guys
Absolutely.
would put street tires on them. And
Yep.
You guys were
Road race style.
destroying the sprockets
Oh,
because
yeah.
they were putting too much pressure on them without the cush drives. Yep.
Exactly.
I remember all that.
So but the next day I'm going, and this is September 11th, about 9:30 in the morning. I'm driving up to pick up my new TTR from Suzuki of Canton.
Okay.
And so I'm listening. There's these guys. I'm sure you remember them. They're called the regular guys on the radio.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't remember their names.
Like Steve something.
yeah, it was Steve and
I've heard it enough,
Yeah.
but fuck, who's
So
listening
they
to
had this
radio in the
crazy ass
past 10
show.
years?
And what it was, one of them was German, and one of them was Jewish, and they would play that whole thing back and forth. That was their show, and it offended a lot of people, including myself. I'm just joking. I wasn't offended, but it did offend a lot of people. But they had unbelievable following. It just they were hilarious, and they really played well together. So anyway, I'm listening to the regular guys, and they're talking about plane hitting a tower or something like that. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? Well, I go in to pick up my brand new TTR. I'm excited because I'm getting a new motorcycle. And there was an old man named Wiley who rode an R1 on the track. And Wiley was a World War II fighter pilot and flew for Delta for years. And he's standing there and he's just kind of shaking his head, kind of like, there should be no planes near those buildings. And then at that time, everybody was kind of huddled by another TV back around the corner, and the second one hit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm here to get my dirt bike. So I'm getting my shit and I'm out of here and I'm going riding. So obviously, not to be insensitive to that whole situation. That was a terrible day in American history. One will never forget. But having a birthday that coincides with that, kind of goes back to Opie ain't shit. It's like there's so much bigger things going on in the world. But yeah, that was and so where I was going with all that to come full circle talking about TTR 125s. I sold that same TTR 3 different times, and I bought it back 3 different times. And after the last time, I thought, this sumbitch is meant to be with me. So I still got
You still have it?
It'll never be sold. I will have it till my kids take it from me and I'm in the ground.
You're not gonna bury it with you?
Nah, well, maybe. I don't know what the family would think. Probably be a little weird, but that bike is a
Write it
blast.
into your will. I've got some weird stuff written into my will.
Really?
Yep.
So I have to compare notes.
You
Well,
I'm,
like,
you
the weird-
know I'm gonna win. Do we go into it now?
No, God, no.
All right.
What else you got for me?
So I was before we went into the fucking wormhole. I didn't
Sorry,
know we'd
I
go down.
took a
No. This is
cul-de-sac.
what I love about this shit. It's just fucking flows natural. Weird superstitions.
Weird superstitions. Okay, here we go. So when I started off, I had a pair of socks. And
Just you had one pair
I
of
had-
socks when
I
you started
raced,
off.
and I had my AGV.
Yeah, that come up high enough
Yep.
for right. Yeah,
I had
yeah.
one pair of socks. I wore them. They were more like dress socks, which was weird because the boot would kind of rattle around on my foot. But that was the pair of socks I had, and so I only wore those socks when I raced. And the bad thing was I would only wash them like once a year. There was just something about yeah, right. It was something like keep the speed.
How are
in
you
'em.
still married?
Oh, that was way before I was married. And so yeah, and actually that's why when I got married, the socks went away. So
she probably was like,
what the
"Comrade?
hell is
What
alive
is
over there? It
this?"
was bad. They could actually walk on their own.
Yeah.
What other strange superstitions?
Oh, Southside Steve, somebody in the live
Southside
chat.
Steve,
Nathan,
yes.
thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Regular guys were hilarious.
Yeah.
They were definitely provocative and questionable at sometimes, but Larry and Eric Von Hessler.
Yes.
Yes.
Holy shit.
Okay. I
You
knew
just need like a little nugget to
What?
just open up a file from a long time ago.
Wait, a
and it'll
nugget?
just open.
no, I better not.
Well, no, you don't get to eat your food because you were fucking 20 minutes late.
Damn it. What my fault? No, and they were hilarious. They were well known. But okay, whatever. So yeah, I listen to the regular guys every time. No, I was joking. I didn't do that. Other superstitions. I'm big into listening to music
Yeah.
before I go ride. And I don't know about other people, but I like to listen to something that kind of pisses me off,
I could see
makes
that.
me a little angry.
Yeah.
I feel like bottled up anger is a good thing when it comes time to go fast.
Mm-hmm.
And
Kind of like
so-
how fighters won't get laid like a month before a fight.
Yeah,
Bullshit. Yeah.
absolutely. You know, you kind of nut up, and then it's like, damn it, you know. But when that green flag drops, it's like, you know, you remember the video game in the '80s called Spy Hunter? Oh shit, you're a '90s kid.
Yeah, I wasn't born till 85.
Okay, you suck. I was born in '73.
I'm more of a licker, but go
I'm
on.
old. No, there was this video game called Spy Hunter, and he had like this little race car, and it had like guns on the front, and all this stuff, and he would ride around and shoot the bad guys or whatever. So I just had this kind of mindset that, and I found, and I'm sure it's different for other people, but a little bit of anger would go a long way for me, and help me, I guess, deal with, I don't want to say fear, but I don't, just help me focus. You were less distracted. Righteous anger, maybe that's, I don't know, but yeah, music, something fast, something makes me angry. Sometimes it might be rap. Sometimes it might be the theme song to the original Top Gun. I love that song. When all the fighter jets about to take, that's so badass.
Highway to the Danger Zone.
Yeah, something like that.
Don't do in karaoke, by the way. I've done that in karaoke.
I can't. No,
You end up saying Highway to the Danger Zone like 100 times.
Right.
Because you only know this part of the
Right.
song, but no,
But
like
the rest of the time, you can ask my wife.
Yeah.
I was just like, and no, there's a song there. So one of my favorite hardcore rap groups of all time was NWA. And
which I'm sorry to get you off topic.
Yep.
I stumbled upon your Caylor made site the other day
Yep.
and saw
you
your
see the picture?
Yes, the picture. That was so awesome.
We're not holding guns though. We're holding
No,
air guns.
air guns,
Air
yes.
guns.
That was so awesome. So yeah, real quick segue into that.
Yep.
Opie has a badass shop in Marietta called Caylor Made. Real race niche, sport bike niche. If somebody is in Atlanta with a sport bike, they probably know Opie shop. But if you don't, go by, check it out. A lot of good people there. But yeah, that was a really cool idea. Like the whole, but it was, what was the acronyms you did? Something Marietta.
MWA. Mechanics with Attitudes.
Yes. Okay.
So, I mean, my favorite album of all time was, I mean, of any genre, anything like that was NWA, straight out of Compton. And everything that everybody did that went away from there, and I know it didn't end peacefully for all those guys. Eazy-E did his thing and then, of course, passed away. You got Ice Cube, Ray, of course, Snoop came up. But there's this song, and actually, this song might not have been on that album. It's called 100 Miles and Running.
Yep.
And man,
no, I think that was actually after Ice Cube split from them.
was it? It might have been.
Yeah.
It might have been. And so, that song, just the
10
speed
inches
of,
of me is black. That's how I know that.
okay,
So
but the speed of that song, the words. If you listen to the words, man, I start thinking about. I mean, maybe I'm a little dark like that in the sense that when I get on the racetrack, I mean, I don't want to like physically hurt anybody, but I want to smoke everybody.
yeah, I think there's a part of it too where it helps you get into just a little bit of that focus because it releases a little bit of adrenaline a little bit earlier if you can get yourself into that mindset. Because a lot of this sport, any kind of sport, really is mental.
Yeah.
So, and I was even thinking about it when you were talking about being on the line with like the nerves and stuff like that. And I'm kind of jealous you still have that. Honestly, that was interesting to say that because I lost that a long time ago. I get more of the air scrambles like a let's get going. But other than that, I've lost that butterfly and stuff. So that's crazy to hear that you
Awesome
still have
feeling.
that.
It's
Do you
awesome.
think you still have that because you allow yourself to get amped up beforehand?
So Dave Cryer is actually a great person to talk to about this because Dave Cryer. So my last full year racing in Weira, I entered 19 races. I won 17. The 2 I didn't win, I finished second. But there were points where, as I wanted to go faster, lap time wise, I started to push myself that I can win all these races, but now I want to break lap records. I tried to constantly create goals for myself, and a lot of that honestly came from 1993 MotoGP World Champion Kevin Schwantz,
Yeah.
and all those instructors we had at that school. I think back to I was the young pup of all those guys, and it was crazy, but to sit there and think about it, sometimes I kind of zone out, and I thought, and of all these badass dudes, and I can name them by name, man, Trey Beatty, John Jacoby, Lee Akery, Harry Vanderlinden, all these, Jamie James, the only rider in AMA history to win all 4 class championships. I mean, I had done the least. And so when I think about, dude, look at all these guys that I'm sitting here by that are so freaking badass. And a lot of those guys, by the time we got to 2011, had retired or left racing or whatever. So I didn't have those guys to push me anymore. The reason I got to where I did was because of Trey Beatty and Lee Akery and Mark Young and John Jacoby and, this whole list of guys. And I'm so thankful for them because they made me, even once those guys had left and gone away, just like Tim Hunt, Tim Beamersturfer, a guy named Louis Zindehaas, all those guys pushed me at one time or another.
Hot?
Picot, nah, he was a factory guy. I got to race on the same track with Pascal, but I was never a threat to him. But, I was thankful for them because once they were gone, I'm like, what the shit am I doing now?
Yeah.
How do I go faster? How do I continue to put myself as the fastest guy? And at that point, I think I was. And so it just became where I would focus on lap times. But where I was going with that, I got so focused that year on getting zoned in pre-race. Prior would actually, I would go on my trailer. I'd have my leathers on. Everything's ready. Tire warmers on. I'm listening to my music. I've got sunglasses on. I don't want anybody to see me. I need to be by myself. And I'm getting to the point where, the music I'm listening to, whatever, I'm envisioning the track. I'm visualizing what I need to do on the first lap. And I'm coming up with my plan of, if I can whole shot the race, this is the pace I'm going to run. And this is how many laps I've got to ride hard to build a lead. I just had to have all that figured out. But Cryer would run cover for me, keep people out of the trailer, away from the trailer. So when I came out, boom, he's yanking the front tire warmer, pulling the front stand. I'm pulling the rear stand and the rear tire warmer. Helmet's already on. I get on the bike, and I'm headed to the starting grid. So that became the challenge, was how can I better myself when those guys that pushed me so hard were no longer.
Well, that kind of makes sense, because you have to have a goal of some kind of thing. So when you said about making the lap records each time, makes sense. Which leads me into another thing I want to ask you about. I remember a story about when you were, I don't remember the instructor school. When I say it, you should remember. Apparently, we're doing a track day / instruction class with somebody, and that dude called you out and was like, nobody's gonna break the track record today. We're not here for that because Opie's gonna do it. And you were like, fuck, man, why you gotta put that pressure on me?
Right,
Now I
right.
gotta do it.
I'm here to ride and have
Who
a good
was
time.
that?
So,
Was it Chris Carr?
no, sir.
Okay.
I think Chris Carr was there, though. It was a gentleman who has passed away, unfortunately. Big time Michelin tire guy. Frank Kinsey. He had the Frank
Ah.
Kinsey riding school.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so I will say this. I feel like I'm kind of equally okay at most tracks. But I'm just not the biggest fan of Roebling Road down in Savannah, Georgia. It's a cool
Was
track.
it Roebling?
It was Roebling.
Oh, I thought it was you must have told me that before I went down first
Yep,
time for
it
Roebling.
was Roebling
then.
Road,
Okay,
and-
not
and-
Tally.
It's a cool track. You know, I don't know. It's not my favorite place. I don't know. I've never been that infatuated with it. It's not that I don't feel it's challenging. It's just I like the tracks that you got to fire the thing off into a corner with the back tire off the ground, and you're doing everything you can to still make the turn, hit the perfect turn in point, and drive the thing out sideways. And at Roebling, just roll around.
Yeah.
You know, you brake a little bit hard in turn one, because you're going to turn.
Dude, your 6th gear tap the fastest it'll go by the time that you get to the checkered flag because you're entering the final turn at like you're probably faster, but I remember like $130,
I was gonna
$140
say that-
entering the final turn, and then you have a 3/4 mile long straightaway.
Right.
Yeah.
So I actually tested a Ducati V4 there a while back. I guess it was 2 years ago. And so it was really cool. The bike, the Ducati and this particular bike has so much electronics on it. And on the dash, it has so much shit that lights up when things start going crazy. So the guy put a camera on the bike. And I hadn't ridden Roebling in probably 3 or 4 years. And I'm on this bike. I've never ridden a V4 on the track before, you know, so it's all kind of new to me. But I gelled with the bike really quick and started feeling pretty comfortable. A couple of things I didn't like was the bike was still standard shift pattern. And
Oh
so,
yeah, not GP.
yeah, and I'm
And if
like,
anybody's listening, so GP, you can flip a bike to instead of up shifting, going down shifting while you're in a tuck. It's a little bit easier to bang
Exactly.
down and stay focused into that like where you want to be, hugging the tanks and position you want to
exactly.
be. in,
So the gentleman that owns this bike is a friend of mine named Mark Henry. And so he put a camera on the gas tank that filmed the dash when I was riding it. And so again, I was being really cool because of the gearing. You know, the shifting was standard versus reversed. And the other thing I didn't like about it, according to what I've been told, and he's the owner, so he knows this stuff. If you change the front sprocket, you void the warranty. It's something to do with seriously. He told me that if you change the front sprocket on a Ducati V4, it voids the warranty because, from my understanding, is the rotation of that shaft in the transmission is completely dependent on the rotational speed of an 18-tooth front sprocket or 17-tooth, whatever it is.
But you can change the rear.
You can change the front. So I'm like, but you know, it's the single-sided swing arm with the big eccentric hub.
Yeah.
So you can only change it so far unless you got to start cutting chains and doing all this crazy stuff. But I was just riding it. It wasn't my bike. It wasn't going to be my bike. I'm just riding it to check it out. And so the gearing is really tall, and like it ended up, I didn't even have to get in. It really wasn't even worth it to put it in 6th gear because the damn gearing was so tall. It actually, you would click into 6th gear and the bike would start slowing down. It wouldn't pull the gear. Geared way too tall. But he took a screenshot. And this is the stock gearing with the standard, 190/55 tire or whatever it comes with. And he grabbed a screenshot from the camera filming the dash. I'm coming to that turn 9 that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these little warning lights going off on the dash. Wheelie control is going off. Spin control is going off. So I'm wheeling, spinning the rear tire at 145 miles an hour. I was like, this thing's pretty freaking awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
it sucks that I can't change the gearing because I think my lap times would have been even better. So my lap time wasn't great, but I mean, the bike was a blast to ride. It was really cool. And, but damn it, if I can't change my gearing, fuck that.
Yeah. That's way bigger than it is in motocross and stuff. Yeah, with woods and motocross, there is a factor to it, but I definitely fully believe it's equivalent for like somebody more on supercross. Like that's, and not me being more in motocross and that
Sure.
stuff. Like I could try to relate those things. But yeah, like gearing is very important. You have specific this bike, this track, this gear, and you don't change it. kind of thing.
So from all my years of road racing, which I raced a total of 25, I have those little black and white composition books.
Yep.
Like, so every year it's back to school. I'm like, oh, we're going to get some composition books. I have all my notes from every race that season, everything I did with gearing, every lap, everything's documented. And I
Yeah.
have this stack of these things from all these years I've
Holy
kept them.
shit! Send me
And
a
so
picture of that.
It's absolutely. And to your point, what I figured out for me, and everybody's different to what they're sensitive to. I ride the bike a little bit more flat track style. That's why my body position sucks comparatively to today's riding. But for me, it's all about getting into the turn decently, but really shaping the turn in a way that I can be 100% throttle sooner to extend the straightaway and carry more mile an hour at the other end,
Yeah.
of whatever straightaway that is. And so I became uber critical to my gearing, and would really, I mean, sometimes I would mess with a half tooth count depending on a certain track and the tire size. So I figured out that Atlanta on a 750, a 190 is kind of not a good tire because off of the slower turns, the old turn 7, and of course the new turn 12, that's a 90-degree turn, the bike lugs off the turn with a 190 on it. But because the tire circumference is bigger, it takes a bigger rear sprocket to turn that thing. So if you put a 180 on that, you got to change your gearing.
Huh.
So on the new 1000, for instance, at Road Atlanta, the way that place is shaped, again, going back to the old 7 and new 12, to do fast lap times there, you got to put that thing in first gear. I know people say I'm crazy to put one of those bikes in first gear because when you drive off of those slower turns, you got to jump from first to second, through the gearbox, and you got to skip over neutral to get there. So it's kind of a big shift. You better be on top of that. And so, so if I'm at Atlanta on a 750 with a 200 series rear tire, I run like 1741, but I never even touch 6th gear. I'm a 5-speed. I run 1st through 5th. Now we go to Talladega or Barber, and I'll use 2nd through 5th, but I'll have 1543, 1544 on the bike. So gearing to me, and that's what I felt like, that even if my tires weren't great or the tire was going off a little bit, if I've got enough gear on the bike, I can adapt what I need to do, still be able to reduce the lap time.
Is that even when the tire gets kind of greasy?
Yeah, you got to stand the bike up a little sooner.
Yeah, okay.
Get it up on the big part of the tire. Now it might hurt your roll speed in the middle of the turn, like when you're turning in. Great example of that is VIR turn 3. I would go into that thing a gear high. I was racing Tommy Hayden there in 2002, and Tommy would actually out accelerate me coming out of turn 1 through that little kink, but he would downshift to get the drive out of 3.
Huh.
And so what I found was if I went in there a gear higher than him and rolled in on him, now he was on a factory 636. I'm on my 750 Supersport GSXR. I could roll up on him, and by the time we got over to the second left-hander, turn 4, boom, I'm right back on the back of him. But it was just like that seesaw effect or accordion effect, whatever they call that. And it was just, I found that to carry the corner speed I wanted to, I had more roll speed in the middle. He got a little bit better drive, but we ended up at the same place.
Here. All right, so another story. I'm not going to tell you who sent me this. I'm going to read the story, and I want you to tell me if you know who this is. So, text a bunch of road race buddies of mine, and I don't have any good Opie stories worth telling on air, but I do remember the first time I met him. It was my first race at Little Talladega, after they reconfigured it, and this dude I'd never heard of before was on a 750 giving me everything I could handle and then some. After the race, I went to find him and saw his bike sitting next to a little trailer, probably your red Dodge, because you always had that red Dodge thing. There was a short, chubby dude at the trailer wearing nothing but a see-through mesh undersuit shirt, squirting cheese on some Ritz crackers and devouring them. I asked the dude if he knew where Opie was, and he was like, yeah, that's me. I'm Opie, and stuck his hand out. My first impression of him was, how did I let this dude beat me so bad? And then I fell in love with this guy.
What? I've got somebody who fell in love with me. Wow.
It's your charisma more than anything else.
So I got Riz, as the kids call it these days.
Yeah.
I got the Riz.
I will say he's closer to my age. I don't know if you've listened to any of the previous shows. I've played a few stories of him already.
Jimmy Merck.
No.
And we raced
Chattanooga area, where he's from.
Oh shit, Chattanooga. Whoa, I got it.
Who is it?
Chris.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good. Oh, damn it! I know.
His name flows well with racing.
And It's right there. He ended up riding for M4 for a little while.
Yeah.
Not Chris Paris or Parrish who raced Moto America, but Chris Turner.
Yes.
Thank
There we
you.
go.
Yes, Chris Turner, absolutely. Yes, man, I remember him coming. He was young.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like he would have been young.
But
He
he's
didn't tell me
fast.
what year.
He's a
Yeah,
fast guy.
super fast.
Um,
He's gonna come on the show at some point too.
awesome,
Yeah.
very cool. Yeah, he's up at Southern Power Sports now,
Yep.
something like that.
Him and Chris's son Parker, they
Yeah,
both work there.
I've been talking to Parker a little bit. Caylor Mate's gonna do some tuning work for him on his new Honda.
Nice.
That I think that Southern Power Sports is monitoring.
We're not gonna go into too many of those details,
right,
but I know
all
a lot of stuff behind the
Oh,
stuff.
that is
Maybe
good.
I'm trying to put on an agent hat to help some things
I got you.
happen. So
Okay, my bad. I jumped
Yeah.
ahead there. But no, Chris Turner. That's right. Yeah, man, he was a fast kid,
Yeah.
and I remember him being quite a bit younger than me, and I was like,
yeah, you're probably like, who's this fucking punk kid coming?
oh,
up?"
totally. Well, you know what's sad is I think about this. I'm like, shit, this is an awful lot like the movie. I'm Dean. You know.
Except he didn't say you're my dad.
Right? Yeah, he never. Well, he did. Well, I'm his daddy, but
I was gonna
no,
say
I'm
you
joking.
you made him.
No. And all respect to Chris Turner, absolutely. No, dude, he was a fast guy. He raced. I think he even raced the Milwaukee MD250s,
Uh-huh.
and I think he might even raced at Indy for one of the pre-races for MotoGP when it was at Indianapolis a couple years back.
I'll get some of those stories out.
Yeah, dude, he's been around. He's a fast guy, and yeah, always respect for Chris. He was fast, and I'm sure probably still whatever he's riding.
So I do have some more stories and some points I want to touch on. Not too many more, but we've
Wanna
been at
touch
this
me?
for 2 hours.
Is that what you said? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you asking me back? Or are you gonna go?
No. I've got other segments that I do along with this, like the tech tips one.
Sure.
Typically, Billy's supposed to send me some, but we've kind of been slacking on getting some sent in. So he sent me the first one.
Hey,
I did
Billy.
the last two. Eisenacher.
Billy. Love Billy.
So,
Now
but
that's
you,
the guy.
since I have this amazing okayish technician in my studio. But I'm the amazing one. You're the okayish.
Sure.
We're gonna do a tech tip of our own, but I also got to pay some bills with this. So,
Transform your comfort with Innovative Mechanical LLC, specializing in HVAC service for residential and commercial properties. They provide expert installation, maintenance, and repair. They're certified technicians, top-notch service, conditioning, heating system, indoor air quality solutions. Serving Georgia since 1999, they prioritize customer satisfaction, prompt, reliable service, and competitive rates. Emergency repairs. Trust Innovative Mechanical LLC. All your HVAC. Call at 770-6407. InnovativeMechanicalLLC.com. Schedule service and parallel day.
all right, we're back. So, we talked beforehand about some tech tips to give, and you were like, "I want to give one." So, how about it? Give the people
So,
some tech tips.
This was something going back to talking about Grant Matsushima. Grant was so smart, so knowledgeable, and taught me so many things as a rider. And you know, it was funny. He hated riders. Every time I'd say something, he's like,
Sounds like most crew chiefs.
right?
Yeah.
He'd be like, "Fucking riders," and but man, he was great. And he
Fucking
taught me
prima
some-
donnas.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I just want cookies, and it's not hard. Just give me cookies and,
and
shit,
Ritz crackers.
and a fast bike. And so, but two things going along. We were just talking about gearing, right? So Grant taught me something really cool. So let's say you've got one of these modern day Japanese, and you're going to alter your gearing on the back wheel, right? So the first thing here, when you alter your gearing, one of the things that from a suspension standpoint and stuff like that, it's really critical to how the bike works and the grip level and stuff like that. Yeah, for me, and I believe this to be true for anybody, is your chain adjustment.
Mhm.
So chain adjustment wise, I see it at my shop. I see it all the time.
And we're not just talking about like make sure that it's the proper
Right.
tension. There's
Right.
more to it, basically.
There absolutely there's more to it. So I like to use on bikes that have hollow swing arm axle pivot, or excuse me, swing arm pivot bolt and hollow axles. I use this pair of rods, and what I can do, they've got flat edges on the outside of either end. And what I do is I adjust the chain. I measure in millimeters that distance. So my goal is, number one, get my chain adjustment just right. Number two, make sure that the rear wheel is perfectly perpendicular to the swing arm pivot. So if your frame's not bent, which you're going to know if your frame is bent, then there's a really good chance that your rear wheel is perfectly in line with your front wheel. At least as close as you can get it without, going crazy or whatnot. But so chain adjustment's super critical. One of the things that Grant taught me was that change your rear sprocket. On one of these bikes, the chain adjuster bolts have the 8x1.25 thread pitch. One tooth on the rear sprocket is 3 full turns.
Oh, wow.
So in qualifying sometimes, let's say I was racing in Wera, when I was racing Wera's, there was a year or two, I want to say 07, where they actually had qualifying. Well, sometimes I might go out on a new front and an old rear, but come in halfway through the session, throw a new soft rear on and go. But there's been times where I've had to make a gearing change. So knowing that 3 turns on each bolt, in or out, depending on which way I go with that rear sprocket, it sped up the process. Now, that being said, I got in a hurry one time, only did it 2.5 turns, and ended up high-siding my brains out because the chain was too damn tight. Coming off this turn at Talladega, the tire spun.
Which turn?
Coming out of the bowl.
Okay.
How it kind of flattens out. I really got the bike kind of sideways, driving it out of there, and then it snapped.
That's going in carousel?
Went into the 90.
Oh, okay.
Out of the bowl.
Oh, the bowls were Megan crash. Yeah.
Okay.
That's basically not turn 2, but like straightaway 3.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you now.
So
been a while since I've been on the track.
Sure. So I got back to the pits, and I'm like, I was on a good tire. What the hell? And I start looking at, and I start, recounting my steps, and sure enough, I did the chain.
Reverse engineering, we'll call it.
Yeah, I freaking blew it, and I only turned it 2.5 turns, not 3, and the chain was just a little bit too tight. So what happens? The tire spins, the suspension loads. When the swing arm starts to come up, the chain gets tighter.
Yep.
As it's reaching the center of its pivot, and as it got tighter, it sprung me back open, or sprung the swing arm back open, and just spit me over the front. I fell off the front of the bike. The bike ran me over and went flipping, and I just blew it. Real bad call on my part. But where I'm going with all that, number one, on the rear end of any of these bikes, these Japanese bikes, 3 turns equals 1 tooth, in or out, depending on which way you go. But more so, one of the things that Grant taught me, being Japanese, he had all these old sayings, right? And I really loved him. I think his dad taught him to him. But he was kind of like Confucius. When Confucius is like giving you this really cool, this cool advice or whatever. And so Grant says, chain not smiling, chain not happy. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
I've heard you say that before, too.
And so it's literally, the chain needs to have a little droop, a little smile right in the middle. And so as your suspension moves, that chain's never going to get so tight, it's going to negatively affect the suspension. So I like that saying. It works for me, and I live by it.
Yeah, and for people not doing road racing stuff, just adjusting your chain normal, I always like to tell people to count the flats. So you get like a certain, maybe, because as you're doing it, they kind of get a little cockeyed too. So you get 1 and 2. All right, that's this many marks from this one. You go to the other one, you're like, oh, this is this far off. So once you have that set, you just count flats. And then once you get them equal, then check your chain. Oh, it's too tight. I'm going to back each off 3 flats.
Exactly.
Then check it again. Oh, still too tight. 3 flats. And then what I like to do is put a tool in that I'm using to adjust into the chain, pull it back,
Boom.
and so it pushes everything
Sucks
up
the
against
wheel in.
it. Tighten it, take the tool out, and check, because there's something about when you tighten the chain or you tighten the axle, it changes it slightly.
It does.
Yeah. So you do that, and that way you're not tightening everything back up to then go, damn it, it's too freaking tight, or it's too loose now.
Man, I'm gonna lie, you just sounded like a real fucking mechanic.
Look, I will tell everybody this. Anybody who's told me that I'm a good mechanic, I'm like, look, I'm not a good mechanic, but I've fucked up so many times and had to learn from those mistakes that I put in procedures and policies, if you want to,
Check
where
the
it's
balances.
like, this is what you do every time. You don't stray from it. And that's what will make you a good mechanic. And honestly, that kind of works a lot with like anything in life. Like if you kind of can just take a step back and be like, something's going wrong. Let's reverse engineer to see what's going wrong and then make a better thing.
I've got this weird obsession, paint markers. So when I work on bikes and I torque something, typically what I do is I torque it twice, and then I take my paint marker and I strike it. And I usually, let's say it's a fork pinch bolt. It touches the fork leg, hits the bolt just enough so I can see that connection. And then I torque it one more time just to make sure I got it. The cool thing about that is, let's say you're in a hurry and you've loosened that up, you slide the axle out, you swap the wheels, whatever, put it back together. All you got to do is align the paint marks. Boom, you're already back to torque.
So I wasn't going to go into too many stories. I was going to go through more segments, but this is a perfect segue into it. I pulled a prank on you one time, which you know I'm a bit of a prankster.
Yes, sir.
And I do still feel not really bad, but a little bad for it. So you were building an engine while we were working at Freedom together, and I found a bolt that was an engine bolt that looks very important, and you had all your shit perfectly lined up in this row. This goes to this, just like we were talking about. You create like a procedure. So I just set one with it and was like, can't wait till he finds this. And it's just going to be like, what the fuck? And I'm going to look over and just see you kind of just doing this. Well, something happened, an emergency, and I had to go somewhere. I got pulled aside for something. I had to go deal with something. I come back like an hour later, and the bike that was 70% together is now 20% more torn back apart.
Fucking folks had babies. So I was like, what the fuck is that?
And I was like, why are you taking it back apart? He's like, I'm like, I found this fucking bolt. I know it's an important bolt from the engine. I fucked up. I got to go back into it. And I was just like, Opie, I'm so sorry. I'm so
You
sorry.
never told me you were sorry.
No, I'm sure. No, I did. I was like, dude, that was me. In fact, I do remember either Chip or Muffin. Remember we called him Muffin? Actually, I've texted him not too long ago. I ran into him at Mountain
Cool.
last year, like last winter. He was here in town. And he comes up to me, and he looks so different. And yeah, and his voice is so deep because he was in high school when he was. So he's well into his 30s by now. But yeah, so I was like, hey, I did this as a joke. If you see him get to this, tell him. So those guys actually fucked you.
Exactly.
Look out.
They did the fucking. You just set it up so they could do some fucking. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and I am weird about that stuff. Shortly after I opened Caylor Made in 2011, there was a gentleman who had bought an SV1000, and he actually brought it by, and it was 06 model, it was red with a black frame, the model, the exact one he wanted, and he brought it by. He talked about like transmission's doing something funny, and somehow he had convinced the seller to let him take it. So he brings it by, he has me ride it, and I'm like, oh yeah, dude, second gear's trash. Don't buy this thing. You know, because the first thing that has to happen is the motor's got to come out, case has got to be split. You know, it's got to have, and on the SV1000, the case is split vertically, not horizontally like most 4-cylinders. So I tell him, don't buy the bike, stay away from it. You want an SV1000, there's more out there, just find one.
Yeah.
He shows up the next Tuesday with that same fucking bike with the fucked up transmission. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? And he's like, no, man, it's the right color. It's, you know, it's everything I wanted. I just want you to fix the transmission. Here. I'm like, great, let the shit show begin. And so, again, to rebuild the transmission on that thing, the case is split vertically. You got to pull the jugs off, the heads, all that, all the damn cam chains and all this shit. And I started working on it, you know, took it all apart, figured out what we needed, ordered parts, got them in, started putting it back together. So there was this one day I decided, I think I was taking the weekend off, and this was like a Friday. So I started assembling the bottom end. And I got my little paint marker bolts and all that shit. And the way the cases and that thing bolt together, there's some bolts inside the cases that you got to do that are really weird down near the crankshaft.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
like behind where the stator would be.
Yeah. So I've assembled the bottom end, and it was the end of the day on Friday, and I'm like, man, I'm out of here. You know, I'll finish it up on Tuesday. So I go home. Me and my wife, I don't know what we do. We're hanging out, watching movies, playing with the kids, and you know, bedtime. Go to bed about 10:30, 11 o'clock. I wake up at 3 a.m. and I'm like, and there's a picture in my head. It's kind of like that Doc Brown moment, you know, when he hit the head on the sink and he saw the flux capacitor.
Capacitor.
But I'm like, oh my God, I didn't tighten that one bolt. And I'm like, fuck. And so,
and any mechanic in the world has had that moment.
3 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, you dumbass.
You don't go back to bed at that point.
Yeah,
You're done.
I mean, I was literally at that point, I was just waiting for it to be daylight again so I could go to work and tear that sandwich back apart. So I go in there and tear the whole motherfucker back apart. it's tight. Like, damn it, you know what? So I totally, you know, my brain totally got me on that one. I have no idea why I went that direction, but yeah, I tore it all apart, and I didn't need to.
All right, so we've been at this for a minute. Let's take a pee break. Let's get something to drink. We'll replenish it. We've only got a few more seconds, a few more stories to go. I mean, is it past your bedtime, old man? I mean,
Well, you know,
it's
my
only
phone
9:30.
did ding, and it says that you know your time is coming, your bedtime is coming. So we got to wrap this up. So no, I'm joking. I'm having a blast.
Good. So let's pay some more bills. The last bill we got to pay. We're gonna play a story because I had this idea for this show 2 years ago,
Absolutely.
and I reached out to people for stories. Do you want to know who sent me one in? Old coworker of mine, road racer road racer.
Chip.
Yep.
Yes.
So
can't
I got a
wait.
long story from Chip. We're gonna mute our mics. We'll go do that, and we'll come back and we'll still get to hear a good bit of it. So
Awesome.
let's do that.
These stories are brought to you by On-Road Riders. Get on the road safely with Road Riders. We offer Georgia certified training through the Motorcycle Safety Foundation Basic Rider Course, 2-wheels and 3-wheel motor. To obtain your motorcycle license hassle-free. Their mission: instill essential skills for safe motorcycle operation, save lives. You'll learn from certified coaches covering everything from clutch friction zone techniques, obstacle avoidance. They currently have 2 convenient locations: Conyers, Georgia's best fireworks. At just 16 years old, you can enroll in successful complete waiver for Georgia EDS motorcycle license. Visit onroadriders.com to start riding safely today.
All right, well, this is a story about me going to Rockingham, probably 1995. I was racing what's called the FZ Cup, so we had to go all the way to Rockingham, North Carolina to race in this race for a money race. The night we were loading up, it was pouring down rain. We had worked all day. It's Friday night. And it was me and my brother and a guy named Max. He'd never come with us before, but we've known him for a while. So we loaded up the car, loaded up the van, and got everything in there. And we're standing outside, and we're just soaking wet. And I looked at both of them and said, you know, there's a trophy store down the street. We could just go get some custom trophies and have them engraved and just tell everybody we won, and nobody would know. And we really thought about that for a second. Said, nah, we're going to go on. So we loaded up. We probably departed the shop around 11 p.m. So it was already late. We had a long drive ahead of us. We're going to drive all night to get there that morning so that we could do morning practice. This was our norm. We would just sleep in the parking lot, get up in the morning, do practice all day long, go grab something to eat, and then go to the hotel room and pass out. So that was the plan. We drove all night. As we were talking about our crashes. My brother and I, we were unbelievable crash monsters, and it's because we were very, very fast in the Southeast. But you go really, really fast, you crash, and that's just the way it is. You can't find the limit until you pass the limit. So we're talking about all the crashes we've had and things that, you know, this crash, that crash, how fast we were going, what was going on, what happened to the bike, all these things. And we turned to Max and said, what about you, Max? And Max looked at us and said, well, I've never crashed. I almost pulled the car over at that moment and told him to get out. I said, dude, you are hanging out with the wrong guys. And he was like, oh, no, it's cool. You know, I've never crashed. It's great. You know, and he's even won a championship as a novice. And we were like, man, you're hanging out with the wrong guys, because we have the habit of pushing people, you know, past their limits. And so Max was cool, and he was like, no, it's cool. But we took quite the reservation for that, and really kind of stored that up in our minds about Max never crashed. He had the same original leathers I mean, I've gone through several pair of leathers because I've just destroyed them in crashes. Same for my brother. We had a collection of helmets, which my brother still has, this big showcase of our crashed helmets. So we continue on, and we get to Rockingham. We do exactly what we said. We drive all night, sleep in the parking lot, get up the next morning, go in for first practice all day. We're exhausted, and we're trying. We can't figure out the lines. This is a really weird track. It's a NASCAR track. It's got like 36-degree banking on it. It's just crazy. You got to go like 80 miles per hour just to stay up on the banking. If you go anything slower than that, you'll just slide down the banking. You can't stop on the banking because your bike will just slide down the banking. So I started talking to a friend of mine named Mike, and he says, "Oh, he's got this place wired out, and he's really turning some great lap times. Come on and follow me." And I was like, "Sure, man. That sounds great. Thanks." It's very unusual for another rider to offer up you to follow him, or he can pick up your lines, especially somebody you're going to be racing against. But we're cool. We're a big family. Everybody's having fun. So I get out in the next practice and I'll start following Mike around. Now I am on a 400 an FCR 400, and he is on a GSX-R 750. And it's a tight, twisty track, so big displacement, big horsepower doesn't really matter. It's about being smooth and just carrying a lot of speed. And so I've got a lighter bike and I'm able to do it. So I'm right behind him. I'm like maybe 4 or 5 bike lengths behind him, and I'm watching his lines. And we're going into this chicane section, coming off banking, which is basically the straightaway. We're full out. We're going to the chicane section, and I'm like, dude, we are going in so deep. I've never, no wonder I was going slow. I've never braked this deep into this corner. And then I realized Mike is crashing, and he is out of control. He is crashing. I peel off at the last second and go straight through the chicane. He crashes going into the chicane, and then I end up taking the long way around on the banking and coming back in. And then we have a discussion later on. It's like, dude, what happened? He goes, oh man, I knew you were back there, and I just was trying to hold it open a little bit longer. And I was like, dude, you almost killed me. I'm not ever gonna follow you again, you maniac. His bike's all wadded up, and I was like, oh man, it was just one of those weekends. So on that Saturday we have these minor races, which are like small endurance, some sprint races, heat races, and stuff like that, to do position for Sunday. And so we do all those, and everything's fine. We end up, and then we go out to eat. We finished the day. Thank God none of us crashed except for Mike, who wasn't riding with us but goaded me into following him. So we drive to I can't remember where we went to eat. It was like a little diner or something like that. And then we went to the hotel, passed out, and then we wake up the next morning, shower. Everybody's back in the truck, or back in the van to the racetrack. We're there by 7 o'clock. Get all our stuff ready. Max and my brother, they're racing in the same class. They're racing 600s. I'm racing 400s in the FC class. And so we're just keep on going. And Max does he has I think a super sport race, no, a super bike race. My brother doesn't race super bike, he races super sport. So they get they do out there, do the practice, everything's cool. And then in Max's race, Max, of course, high sides himself while leading. High sides himself, crashes, ends up in the ambulance, and he's crying for my brother to go with him to the hospital. My brother has not raced yet, so my brother is like, but I got a race to go, and he's like, don't leave me. We're like, oh God, what are you gonna do? Oh, fine. And he finally acquiesces and goes with them to the hospital. Now I'm by myself, and I was like, oh crap. And so I don't know, no one's going to run my board. No one's going to run my times. I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to go out there and do the best I can. So we start a race, and, I get to my race, and I start going around, and As this is going on, we found out as we're pushing faster and faster and faster, the bikes are set up to be low for speed. When you're coming out the banking, or you get on or off the banking, your bike would compress and your pipe would hit and leave like a 40-foot spark coming off the back of your bike. And so everyone's getting showered with sparks off of every race. And it was just the craziest race. I think I ended up second, and it was just totally nuts. And it was just another one of those freaking weird weekends where I had to, after it was over, I had to load everything up by myself, then drive to the freaking hospital and pick those idiots up. And then we had to drive all the way home with Max crying about his broken collarbone or something like that. Dude, I've raced with a broken collarbone. It's like unbelievable. Well, and that concludes one of my little moments. Hope you like it.
So that's kind of wild, the fact that I've had this story for 2 years when I first had this thought. So and it's pretty neat that, and I wanted to save that for when you came in because he was a coworker of mine.
Saving it for me?
Was.
Oh, nice.
Definitely not saving my cherry.
No, that was cool. That was cool because I remember Chip and
He was funny. You know who I always referenced him to? Uncle Fester.
Uncle Fester.
Old,
Okay.
short,
Right,
little stocky.
So Chip was honestly a very good rider, and his brother Drew was equally a good rider.
Okay.
Both those guys were fast, and just sitting there kind of. I haven't talked to Chip in a long time, so just hearing him speak and hearing his voice, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
man. Absolutely.
Yep. All right, so we're gonna go into the next story. This one's a little bit more somber. My buddy, John Popham, is a woods racer of mine, or buddy of mine. He actually on Wednesdays he has he's an optometrist in Cedartown near Highland Park actually.
Yeah. Okay.
And so Wednesdays his place is closed. He'll come out and mountain bike with me on Wednesdays. He told me this story and I was like, dude, you got to send it. Why afterward? Listen to this.
I'm going to share a story about my uncle, Gene Popham. About a month ago, it was July 21st, Gene got on his e-bike to head down to the river behind his house. Several minutes later, his Apple Watch called 911. When the emergency personnel arrived, they determined that he was in critical condition. Once at the hospital, they found out he had several broken bones, multiple ribs, collarbone, scapula, but all of that was minor compared to the fact that he had a subarachnoid hemorrhage surrounding his brain. The hemorrhage couldn't be drained according to the neurologist, and his brain activity and mental capacity was almost completely gone within several days. On August 2nd, they disconnected him from the life support and he passed away. Gene was 81 years old, and he's owned almost every kind of bicycle, street bike, or off-road bike you could imagine. And one thing he would always preach about was wearing a helmet. For whatever reason, Gene wasn't wearing his helmet that day, and we aren't sure what caused the crash. He used to take his dog down to the river with him, so it could have been as simple as his dog getting tangled up in the bike, or we just don't know. We have no clue what actually caused the crash. But mainly, I just wanted to share this story to remind all of us to wear a helmet, even if you're just testing the bike in your backyard. We don't ever know when something could happen. Thank you, Campfire Moto Stories, for letting me share.
Thanks, John, for sending that in. He told me it. I wanted him to send that in as like because I've even go back and listen to some of the past episodes. There's things that I've preached about how to avoid getting bikes stolen, how this and that, like even him, that dude preached it. And I told him, I was like, dude, I can understand what that feels like because my dad and my uncle both worked for Helmet House. They hammered into us, you have a helmet on no matter what. But there's going to be those times where like, I'm just going to do this. Put a helmet. Like, I get made fun of all the time. If I'm just test riding a bike, I get people that will be like, helmet on, you're just ripping up in the street. Like, because I've worked on this shit. Like, something could go wrong and tuck the front end, and it's it. I mean, I've heard stories about people with a helmet on, even 35 miles an hour. You hit a curb the right way, it's over for you.
And,
like,
we let our guard down. You know, I think sometimes we get a little overconfident. And that's.
I'm sure you've done it at your shop. Like, I'm just gonna go test ride this up the street. So playing this, people, like, keep that shit in mind. Like, no
I'm gonna
matter,
just-
the dude's 81. He's probably had all the confidence in the world. Like you said, he goes to ride down with his dog.
Dude's probably been riding damn near 70 years on bicycles and motorcycles and whatever, and just thinks like what could happen. I'm just going right there and back. And I really think you let your guard down like that, and that's when that shit creeps in and gets you. I hate to hear that about that gentleman, and I feel for his family. And Godspeed, man. That's a tough thing to go through for sure.
But out of all the shit that we talk about when we're little kids to now, probably grown, he probably still would tell you this at 81 before he passed. What are the two things you say you want to go out doing? Riding your bike, getting laid.
Right.
He at least had one of them.
Right.
So I will give him that. But jokes aside, like, it is awful, but John was lighthearted about it, and he celebrated his uncle's life and was telling me all kinds of stories we were peddling that day. And yeah, it's just, what more do you do about it?
Yeah, it's just I think the key to remember is, man, you just always got to keep your guard up. Complacency kills, man. You just you back off one little bit and let your guard down, and that little bit of lapse of focus or attention, and I just hate it. But yeah, I mean, you got to wear your helmet. One of the teams I raced for, 2006, when I was racing AMA Supersport, AMA Formula Extreme, the team was owned by a guy named Kevin Hansen. Kevin Hansen lived in Chicago. The team was based in Chicago, and he had this entire program, his entire Suzuki program that he was sponsored with from American Suzuki through Mel Harris, who was the vice president at the time, on a helmet safety program. He went to every Chicago inner city school and other schools when we were traveling to different races, and would actually have safety seminars with all these kids in these different elementary and middle schools, saying, listen, if you're going to get on a bicycle, wear a helmet.
Yeah.
And it was such a great program, and really brought awareness to the importance of don't let your guard down. Always have your gear on, dress for the slide, not for the ride.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that we've all heard at some point. Dress for the crash, not the ride kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. But, all right. Enough somber stuff. This story is fucking hilarious.
Oh, no.
Yes. All right. Let's give this one.
Hello, my name is J.D. O'Shea. I'm from I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I've been racing motorcycles, since I was 6 or 7 years old, so for well over 50 years. So my story is, I believe the year was 1987 or 88, and I'm racing hare scrambles. I'm on a KTM 250, and outside of Pittsburgh is a town, East Palestine, Ohio, the place where the train wreck occurred last year. They used to have a race called the Turkey Trot, and it was on the Sunday before Thanksgiving, and it was always muddy and rainy and nasty, but it was a fun race. And myself and 4 or 5 of my buddies, we went out there. We each entered an individual race, but you could also enter a team race. And we actually won the team event. We did pretty good. I think 2 of my buddies might have got first place. I think I got second or third, and another buddy got third or fourth. So we did real well, and got a nice big dinner plate as first prize for a turkey with a turkey on it to slice your turkey up and put it on. So it was a good day, fun race, really muddy. But first prize for the winner, the overall winner, was a live turkey. So Scott Plessinger, Aaron's dad, won the race. He I think he was on a Kawasaki at the time. So he won the race. He won the live turkey. So after the race, we're all sitting around. It's getting late, and we're drinking beer, and everybody's having fun. And Scott comes up to us and says, "Hey, I know you guys are from Pennsylvania or from Pittsburgh, because we kind of know." He goes, "You got a lot shorter drive than I do. I got to drive all the way back to Indiana. I don't want this damn turkey. Do you guys want it?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure, we'll take it." So it's a live turkey in a box. And he just hands it to us and drives away. I put it in my van, forget about it. continue to have some fun, a little bit of beer drinking. We get in my van and we're driving down the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and the turkey gets out of the box and it's flying around inside my van. And turkeys really can't fly because they clip their wings, but they can flap them, right? And they're a lot tougher than people think. So it's flying around in my van or moving around in my van, and there's 2 motorcycles in there. Actually, there's 3 motorcycles and 2 people. My buddy's kind of sitting on a milk crate in between the 2 seats of the van, and this thing's just gone nuts. And we had to pull over on the side of the road, jump out, and let this thing just go crazy and tire itself out. And then we had to get back in the van, grab the turkey, stuff it back in the box, and continue to drive home. And what was it? We didn't kill it on Thanksgiving. I think we killed it on the Friday after, the next day, right? Yeah, we typical, put it on a block of wood, chop its head off, and sure enough, they do run around a little bit before they fall over. And that's the story of me getting a first prize turkey donated to us by the winner of the East Palestine Turkey Trot, and it was Scott Plessinger that gave us the turkey. So that's the story. Talk to you later. Bye.
I told you that was an amazing story.
That is amazing.
So that's my buddy Ryan's dad, Jay. And when I was up at Fannin 2 weeks ago, he told me that story. I was like, please send this in.
Yes.
But that's the thing. Like, one of the things that I was talking about with wanting to start this podcast is like to give people the opportunity to tell a good story. Everybody has an amazing story. And what sucks is I feel like with talking with people, they're like, yeah, I've got one, but like, I don't know, I'm going to fumble up. Who gives a shit? Just send it in.
Just talking.
Yeah, we're just go into the mindset. If we were to be hanging out after a race and swapping moto stories or whatever, any motorcycle related story, send it in. Because you know what happens? You earn entries into a YZ250 that I'm giving away. And I do this to all my guests because I walked you into my garage and had you look at this thing.
Yep.
Tell the people about this bike.
YZ250. I mean, that's badass. Who wouldn't want it, you know?
Yeah, but
freaking Yamaha. It's awesome.
I hit the button. There we go. Yeah, but I fully restored that thing. I got that thing. It did not look great. Tore down the frame, ripped it up from the bottom.
Looks great.
It does. It looks pretty.
Looks ready to ride.
I'll slip you $20 for saying.
You know what's great? I was thinking about this, right? Like think about the conversations. To your point about, you know, you have a story. You might think it's funny, but you might not, so you don't know if you're going to tell it. I mean, tonight we've talked about a Grand Prix world champion, Kevin Schwantz. We've talked to a Hollywood director and rider who's amazingly cool and rides. Just heard a story about Aaron Plessinger's dad giving away it. I mean, of all the things, I mean, just talk about a melting pot.
There's billions of fucking good motorcycle stories out there. I just got to get this thing big enough to the right people. Get them to send in. Because at any time, you can dial the number. It's on the screen, 844-789-2367. Got 8 minutes to tell a good story. And honestly, I'm going to let anybody who can somehow, if you want to come in the chats or whatever, there's a dad joke in that phone number, 844-789-2367. There's a dad joke in there. Whoever tells me what the dad joke is first gets 20 entries into the YZ2 giveaway. So you don't count.
Ah, damn it.
Because you're here live, so you actually get to think about it. So if somebody can send me in the dad joke to that, either in the Facebook comments and social media, whatever, I'm going to hook you up with that. All right. We've really kind of gone on a thing, but I don't give a shit because this is my show and I do what I want to. Oh, I do have a live caller segment. The phone lines are open. I doubt anybody is actually listening live, but if somebody wants to call in live, banter with us, share a good story, that's the phone number to call. It's going to pop up to me and be like, he's calling, just like it did with Kelly earlier. So I'm going to make sure that I can see that. Pops up. Go. All right, so we're going to go. We already talked about tech tips. We're going to now do one of my personal favorites, assholes on the internet. This is a segment of mine because no matter what you do, you could literally be the nicest person ever. There is going to be somebody who comments to something just in a negative way. Kind of like we were talking with Kelly earlier.
Sure.
Somebody's going to have something negative to say
Of
about his movie.
course.
Who gives it? I honestly, instead of getting upset or worked up about it, I think it's pretty damn funny. So when my second show, I had my buddy Coleman in. There was a Gene Speedo talk because my buddies and I at the 24-hour race, we all wore Gene Speedos to fuck with the organization because they wouldn't let us use the fucked up name that we had. So it was like, here's the story of actually how the Gene Speedo thing happened at the 24 hours in Alabama. So I posted in a few groups and a dude hit me with, "So glad I missed that stupid shit." And of course, with my sarcastic nature, I said to him, "When's your next race? I'll make sure to come be your umbrella man." So I sent you this picture days ago, or weeks ago, actually. So Nick Blackman is in that picture with me, and he was doing a regional Loretta Lynn's race at Ichikani down in Macon, Georgia.
Yep.
And I hadn't met him before, but he knows of me because, like, just him and his buddies do a podcast like 2 miles away, and we have mutual friends. So I go to Nick, and I'm just like, "Hey, man, good to meet you," whatever. So I walk up to them with a line. They line up for their gate. I take off my clothes. I'm wearing the Gene Speedo and bust out an umbrella. So there's
You're
a really
so awesome.
really funny video.
You have like
to
the
that.
biggest balls. That's so
That's
awesome.
it. It's tiny. Tiny wiener. I don't know why my wife stays with me. It's definitely not the motion that I put it through either. But yeah, I think it's not the balls. It's my fucks to give are very low.
Right.
And if I can do something to make somebody laugh, I'm going to do it.
Sure.
Because this world sucks enough and people just need to laugh more or like just lighthearted. So, and also, so today, while mountain biking on my lunch break, I go and mountain bike at
You
Altoona.
get to go ride for lunch?
Yeah, I work from home, bro.
Oh.
I get an hour lunch break. I go do that.
Killing.
So this is my wife told me a while back. There's a thing on TikTok called like, "Am I the asshole?" So I get into Voodoo, which is one of the gnarlier trails or whatever, and I'm coming up on a guy, and I'm doing the boo.
Wait, what trail? What place is this you're talking?
Altoona.
Altoona,
Mountain bike
okay.
park. And nothing. Cuckoo. Nothing. I'm like, that's weird. Then I noticed that guy has earbuds in, or AirPods in, both ears. And I'm like, all right, obviously he's listening to music. Can't hear me that well. Louder, louder, louder. 7 different times I yelled to the
And
guy.
is he like blocking you? Like,
Yes.
You're like, get the hell
He's
out
on
of
a
the way.
regular bike. I'm on an e-bike.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fucking faster.
Right.
So we get to like a tree root section. I go to pass him on the left, and as soon as I go to pass him, I scare him now. Ah! And he didn't fall over, but he did the foot dab and tried to save it kind of thing. And actually, I did the same thing too. And I look back at the guy, and I'm like, "Dude, I called to you like 7 times." And he just kind of did one of those. And I
Right.
was like, "Oh, okay. So am I the asshole in this situation? Or if you are riding a bike, you shouldn't have 2 ear pods in. You should have one in to hear somebody if they come behind you or whatever."
Exactly. You know, you see these signs in different places you go where it says, you know, proper trail etiquette is, you know, and bullshit like that. And so it's funny. Matthew and I were out riding one day at Blankets Creek.
Okay.
Or no, it was Rope Mill.
Okay. Yeah.
And you pull up to this one trail, and it says, okay, if it's, you know, Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, turn left.
Directions,
If
yep.
it's Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, turn right, or whatever, right? So I have to stop for a minute, and I'm like, okay, wait a second.
What day is it?
What day is today? And then I'm like, okay, we turn left.
Yep.
So Matthew leads us out, and we're both on e-bikes. And, you know, I looked at the sign. I double-checked. It says it's fucking Tuesday, fucking turn left, right? So we turn left, and we weren't even in the trail, you know, I don't know, minute and a half, 2 minutes. Some guy comes ripping around this rock section and goes, "Y'all need to pay attention to the sign and look where the fuck you're going." And I'm like, "It's Tuesday, bitch." I'm like, "We're supposed to be going this way." So I guess he just had his days backwards.
Oh, so because I've done it that way,
Yeah.
but it's been the opposite. I was wrong. I had my days mixed
He
up.
completely cussed us out. I'm like, "Bro, you're going the wrong way." So,
All right, so I'm not the asshole in
You're
that
not the
situation. You're
asshole.
not the asshole.
No, sir.
Okay, so, and I told my wife this, and she thinks I'm in the asshole for the next thing I do, because I never get mad at most situations, for the most part. There's very few times in my life I actually get mad. I feel like it's a waste of energy, but I do get even. Somebody
you know
fucks
what? This
with
is
me.
good for me because sometimes I do get mad, and you're right. It's very
No, I won't
negative.
get mad. I will get even.
Yeah.
So,
I like that.
knowing that guy was behind me, there's a lot of half-fallen trees on the trail. So what I did in 3 different sections where I saw a perfect tree, I stopped because he fucked up my ride, and I blocked the trail.
I love it.
So it's super immature. You shouldn't do
But
that.
you never got mad. I mean, that's
I didn't
great.
get mad. I just got even. So am I still the asshole doing that? Because I'm going to be honest. I thought that was an asshole.
I mean, maybe a little, but you were helping the guy. You were helping him to grow, a little bit inside.
I
So
was going to go. I didn't get a chance to do it. But I was going to go onto like their Facebook page or whatever and just be like, PSA, don't put 2 fucking earbuds in while you're riding a bike. Because there's been people that I've been jogging. Actually, shit, John Popham, now I think about it. He told me when he was riding the, what's the Trail of Tears? What's the actual name of it? It's over in Cedartown.
Man.
We'll think of it in a second.
Yep.
But he was riding one of those trails, and there was somebody just jogging on the trail, earbuds in, blah, blah, blah. He called to him. He can't stop at this point, and they about took her out. kind of thing. So I've had that situation too with people jogging where they're just, and they do it more than anything. They have full surround sound covering their ears. But yeah, just if you're on a trail with that,
you got to be able to communicate,
Yeah.
whether it's listening
just
or
one earbud in.
Yeah.
And even
absolutely.
so, when I was talking to my buddy Joe, he's like, "Oh, they gotta have the music down." I'm like, I don't think that matters. If you got 2 things in, you're blocking it, even if the
Absolutely.
music is quiet. So one earbud in.
I agree.
But
You're not the asshole.
I was an asshole for the second part. All right, so nobody's calling in live. That's cool. I do have a few other segments that I do, but honestly, we've been at this for a long time. I still want to bullshit with you about a few more stories, so I'm going to save those for the next show.
Excellent.
So, talking about Chip earlier, and I made sure to star this, and I really hope Chip gets to hear this at some point. So, we were working together. Your wife had already had your son, Matthew, but she became pregnant with your daughter,
Abigail.
Okay, I almost said Abby. And I was like,
And she goes by Abby.
Okay, I thought so. And while you were going through this, we were giving you so much shit because you would come into work and you'd be like, guys, my fucking nipples hurt. Like, my wife being pregnant with a girl. I looked at this shit online and WebMD. Like, this is a real thing. Guys, like, the estrogen that's being released because she's carrying a daughter. We were fucking...
Bro, that shit is real.
No, it's
That shit is
not.
real.
That is in your head.
Dude, check this out. When she was pregnant with Abigail, I gained more weight faster than she did with the baby. I'm telling you, man. It's like the human husband-wife sympathy. There's like, bro, I'm telling you, it's real.
So you gained it and you just never let it go then, right?
I let some of it go, but I brought most of it back. That shit's real, man.
I was like, I've got to work this into this at some point. That was one of
I
the
hope
funny.
everybody that's listening writes in and says, this shit is real.
Dude, it was every single day like, oh, Opie's here. Oh, my nipples hurt too because his wife's
It's there's a certain name for it. It's like some kind of
vagiciliitis.
yeah, exactly that. Something like that. Man, you brought out the good shit tonight. Wow.
When you were like, I don't really know how to do all this
When
shit.
you said
and
WebMD, all of a sudden I was back. Oh my God, I remember that. Fuck.
And that was early days of WebMD too.
Yes,
But
exactly.
no, when we first talked about you coming on, you're like, I don't know, man, I'm not that good at telling. And I literally texted you. I was like, I got this. Just come on. Like, I've got shit stored up from things.
You know what's crazy is you're talking about this stuff, and it's stuff that maybe, obviously remember, but just in the, of everything going on, we don't get to do this shit enough. Sit around and talk and talk about the things that bring us together, and it's awesome. It's so much fun. Wow. I forgot.
All right, another cool story.
My nipples are kind of hurting right now.
Yeah,
actually.
well, vagiciliitis still going on. All right, so I can't remember I feel like you told me this story at some time, and you mentioned it at some point. I believe you were on the M4 team, whatever year it was, you'll tell me. So I remember you telling me that you were kind of complaining, like, I can't win, I need this shit. And they're like, you're not supposed to win. Josh Hayes or whoever, like the top tier team, you were like the second tier of
Okay,
Suzuki.
so,
the top tier
absolutely.
team is supposed to win. And so what I recall of this is you said, I need to show these guys I'm fucking serious, and you totaled a bike that weekend.
Yeah, so I actually mentioned them earlier. It was called Safety First Racing. The team was owned by Kevin Hansen. Our engine builder and crew chief was Jim Rashid. It was based out of Chicago, and it was amazing. So 2006, and actually at the end of 2005, Kevin Hansen, the team owner, came to the Grand National Finals. I won all the Suzuki Cup shit, or at least on the 600, and Kevin Hansen brought me a contract that weekend, and we talked, and we were kind of making plans for 06. And 05, I had another solid year. Suzuki was starting to take a look at what I was doing. Morgan Broadhead, Pat Alexander, those guys. And I was politicking. I was trying hard. I really wanted to ride for a factory team or a factory support team. And I never made it on a full factory team, but Safety First was factory support. And so what had happened was 2006, the GSXR 600 was an all brand new motorcycle. And if I recall correctly, the bikes were still being produced and there were no really parts for them yet. And so what Suzuki did is they gave, if I'm not mistaken, 14 GSXR 600s to the team. And they said, okay, we want you to take and build, 8 or 10 race bikes. And so my teammate that year was a gentleman by the name of Tony Myron, LT grade, Tony the Tiger, factory Kawasaki racer. He raced for Attack Racing. Tony is great. I love Tony. I still love Tony. I would be his teammate, do any kind of weird shit anytime. But we were on this team together, and we got the bikes late. We show up at Daytona. The engines weren't even built. We're racing AMA Supersport on stock motors, and so we got absolutely obliterated. I mean, it was so painful. And they were like, oh no, it's okay. We just did everything we had to do to get bikes together so we could run them this weekend. Granted, they had pipes, they were tuned, they had suspension, but our engines, and think about it, we're at Daytona. You need bikes to go fast at Daytona.
Yeah.
And we're riding stock 600 motors. And so Tony and I just absolutely got our asses handed to us. And so the crew chief, Jim Rashid, was like, hey, you know what? It's all good. Well, the next race is how many ever weeks away, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it was. We'll have motors built by then. We'll be in a lot better place. Plus, Barber's more of a rider's track. It's not so much a horsepower track. So we go, I think it was Barber. It might have been Cal Speedway. I might have got this backwards. But we go to the next race. The bikes are marginally better, but they still weren't fast, right? So, and I think Barber was second. I know I'm screwing that up, but anyway, go to the second race. Still got our asses kicked, but we were a little bit closer. We go to California Speedway, and California Speedway is
and that's not
Montana. It's a NASCAR track.
Yeah. What? Not. I want to say Lamont. That's not it.
You're thinking Infineon or Laguna Seca?
Laguna Seca.
Okay.
Thank you. That's not Laguna Seca.
Correct.
Okay.
So California Speedway is a NASCAR track with an infield section. And I don't normally like tracks like that. I'm not normally that good in them, like at a Texas World type place or something like that, Texas World Speedway. But I really like Fontana. And one of the people that really helped me sort out turn one there because it's so fast was actually Ben Spees. Spees is, we've been buddies for years. Spees is really good in turn one. And everywhere else on the track, he was fast as shit. He was only a teenager then, but he always was ripping. And so we talked about it. He showed me some things, and I thought, I'm going to try that. And so I was able to pick my speed up in turn one and not get off the gas as much. So it really helped me have a little bit more of an edge that weekend. Granted, the bikes are still slow as shit. So 3 rounds down, bikes are slow as hell, and we're getting on an airplane to go to California. And we're flying out because with the third race, like I said, was at Cal Speedway. And then I think everything just stayed out there. We flew home. We flew back. So we're getting on the airplane, and we're flying out there. And I've just been thinking, right, because I'm a results-driven person. I like to win. I like the immediate satisfaction of being the number one guy. That's I don't know, it's just there's something about that instant gratification. So it doesn't suck. So I went from having bikes that I built in my basement and having guys like Thermos Man build my suspension
Oh
To
shit!
the
I
point-
haven't thought about him in forever. Yeah,
to
yeah.
the point that I could create a package myself that was competitive with some of the top bikes. And now here I am on a team with a freaking motorhome and a semi setup, and we're factory supported, and my results are getting worse. And me and Tony kind of started to confide in each other and talk about, well, why do they not seem to care? Why do they not seem to be focused on this? And so, I go to Infineon, and I tell the guy that's working on my bikes for me, I said, I think it's time to get their attention. He's like, well, how are you going to do that? I was like, I'm going to shit wreck one of the bikes. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to ride that son of a bitch into the ground. And I'm going to do it on day one in promoter practice. I'm going to ride the thing.
Oh, I'm recalling more stuff. Yep. Okay.
I'm
keep
going to
going.
ride it so hard that, I'm going to show them, y'all, I need motor, And so I'm out in Thursday promoter practice. Anthony Gobert's little brother, Aaron Gobert, was riding for Arian Honda on a CBR 600 Formula Extreme bike. I'm on my Formula Extreme bike. And so imagine a bike with, other suspension parts or whatever, and a motor with camshafts that makes more power on top rather than it does mid-range. So my lap times on my faster bike are actually slower than my super sport bike. Really frustrating. So Gobert comes by me, and I'm like, okay, this Infineon is a rider's track. There's no big long straightaways. So you can take a slower bike and still create a pretty good lap time out of there. And so Gobert comes by, and I jump in behind him. And I mean, I'm just holding on. Like what can I do? He's yarding me in this one straightaway, and I'm just trying to keep my claws in him so he doesn't get away. And so we come down this big carousel turn, and I knew his bike was going to pull me, so I thought I'm going to get on the gas harder, sooner, and just try to get a little bit of drive, maybe get a little draft off of him, have him pull me up to the next right-hander. And so I pin it early. And I mean, I didn't roll. It was like a light switch.
Just
Boom.
stop.
And so coming down the hill, and there's a transition from the asphalt of the carousel turn onto the drag strip. Infineon is a road course into a drag strip. And so there's a big pavement change right there. I'm at full lean, the throttle's pinned, and I go from asphalt to concrete patch. And I mean, it was like a booger, like, bing! I mean, just it flicked me so hard. And I fly up over the front, land right in front of the bike. Bike runs me over, goes cartwheeling, just absolutely disintegrates itself. And so I end up in the hay bales, right? And there's dust and the hay bales and shit everywhere. And I kind of, thought I've got to run through a series of checks here. And I just got to make sure everything moves and works. And I might have had a little bit of a concussion. I had a little bit of a headache or whatnot. But I remember laughing uncontrollably. Like, I fucking told him. I fucking told him. And I'm like, what else do I got to do? And so a couple rounds go by, and we get to Miller Motorsports Park in Utah. And we had a big conversation because Tony and I, at this point, we're halfway in the season. We're kind of pissed off. Like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, understandable.
We're on a factory team. I remember being at Mid-Ohio, and my friend Jeff May, we were out in super sport practice. He was riding for M4 Suzuki. Again, I was riding for Safety First. We come out of the keyhole onto the back straightaway. He goes by me so fast on the M4 bike that I thought he was riding a 1000. I mean, it was like, and I know I'm a bigger guy. Okay, I know I am.
All those Oreos.
But you know how exactly. But if you looked at old AMA timing, they segment the track into 3 splits, right? So I could go look at the splits and see where I rank with every other rider on that track in that session, right? In the middle split, which is turn 5 to turn 9. I can't believe I remember this crap. Turn 5 to turn 9. It was only like, I don't know, like maybe a 12-second segment. It wasn't very long between turn 5 and turn 9. But I was P3 in that segment. And I'm talking against Jamie Hacking, Jeff May. I mean, all the who's who of Michael Barnes, all those guys. I was right there in the mix and was within a tenth and a half of all those guys. And then I look at the last split. The last split's where you come around from turn 9 back to the front straightaway. There's no big long straightaways. I think I was P3 in the second split. I was P4 in the third split, and still like 2/10 off. In the first split, which once you come out of the keyhole and head down the big long back straightaway, I think I was a second and a half a lap slower in one segment. It's because my bike felt like it was fucking tied to a boat or an anchor or something, just just wouldn't go. It wouldn't pull. And so I'm like good and pissed off at this point. Tony's fed up with it. So we're at Miller and we're like, what the hell, man? What's going on? And the crew chief, which up until this point I thought very highly of and respected very much so. And I'm not saying I don't respect him, but it just everything had come to a head. And he said, listen, man, Speeds can't win on a 600 in AMA Supersport. What makes you think you can? You should just be happy that you're here, part of the show. And so I tell Tony this, and I'm like, bro, I'm used to winning. I like to win. Winning motivates me. That's why I do it. You know, I mean, and that's not only why I do it, but that's what motivates me. That's what forces me to push myself. And if you guys are just happy because we get to hang out on the weekends with all these other people, then this is the wrong spot for me. This is not what I thought I signed up for. It's really not. And so shortly after that, I actually left the team a couple of races early. I think I pulled out at VIR, and a gentleman by the name, he's racing Moto America right now, Bobby Fong. Bobby Fong took my spot at safety first for, I think, the rest of that year and then all of the following. And Fong did okay over there. It's interesting. After me and Tony left, I don't know if they got more budget, more support, whatever. But within the next year or two.
Or maybe just a fuck you to you guys.
It could have been.
Yeah.
It totally could have been. But the bikes got better. Fong was riding really well. Bobby, badass anyway. So he seemed to do a lot more with those bikes. You know, but I know even if I'm to take myself out of the equation, Tony Myron was badass. Still is badass. Still races flat track out in California every weekend. Tony and I both, our results were typically the same. And again, if I go back to the Mid-Ohio splits, I can't wheel the damn thing down the straightaway any faster.
Yeah.
And I remember that weekend at Miller, I was like, I finally had enough. There was a girl racer named Jessica Zalewski. Damn good rider, has a track school up at Brainerd in Minnesota to this day. And so Jessica was a professional snowboarder. And she liked motorcycles. She got in through a Team Green kind of deal that they had.
Oh, okay.
And she had like a factory prepped ZX6R. And I remember coming out of the last turn at Miller, and coming to the last couple of turns, I was closing on her. This one practice session, we come out of the last turn. So the last two turns there are called wind up and release. And release onto the front straightaway, and it's like a 5,000-foot front straight. It's huge. And I remember I'm closing up on the last couple of turns. I get right to her back tire as we go through release, and as soon as I see the apex, boom, I'm pinned, right? And as we stand it up, he leaves me, just walked away from me. And I thought, fuck, man, I might as well get off and push. You know,
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. This thing sucks. It handles great. The chassis were dialed in as good as they could, but the engine development had stopped, and the team didn't seem to care. And so at that point, I was like, I'm out. So I quit.
But did you feel, because what I kind of remember, and God, well over 10 years ago, it's like you were kind of told, like, you're not supposed to win. You're supposed to be this.
Yeah, you should just be
and
happy
this
you're
should
here.
be this.
Yeah.
And this team should be this.
Yes.
That's kind of like the narrative that they got.
There's a pecking order, you
Yeah.
know, and that the manufacturers want to advertise their best riders' accomplishments to promote their product. You know, it's the old saying back in the day, win on Sunday, sell on Monday.
Yep.
So in 2003, I finished third in the AMA Superstock race at Atlanta.
Mhm.
Got him a great rider, awesome dude, Vincent Haskevec, Czechoslovakian dude. He was so cool. He won the race. Josh Hayes got second. I got third. I was 0.9 behind Josh and Vincent at the line. They went across the line together. I got to help by a lapper on the last lap, but I was still right there, close enough to see it. I just came up a little bit short. Vincent went on and on for so long.
Oh, okay. This is that story I was going to ask
Yep.
you. You guys
We sat down on the damn podium.
took your helmets off and
Yeah.
took a nap.
Vincent wouldn't shut
Do
up.
you have pictures of that?
I do. I have
Yeah,
pictures
like
of that.
I've heard the story where they would come to take the mic from him. He'd be like, "No,
Yeah, he would
I
keep
worked so hard for this," and he just
Yep.
kept.
The
How
funniest-
long do you like? How
Oh my
long did it
God.
feel? How long do you think it actually was?
How long do I think it was? Like, actually, a solid 10 minutes for real. How long did it
A
feel?
podium speech for 10 minutes.
How long did it feel? A freaking hour. He just. But here's the thing, Vincent,
So glad.
such
you
a
brought
good
that up.
rider, such a big heart, and just an absolute pleasure to race with, and race against. And actually, early in the race, I was chasing Josh. I was second. Josh had started to get away. And I don't know if he chose too soft of a tire or what, but I guess at about halfway, he started to come back to us. But what happened, Vincent attacked me at one point going into, I don't know, 10A or something like that. And I didn't want that to happen. So I immediately fought back, got back in front of Vincent. I was faster at the top of the hill in turn 2 and 3 at the new chicane. That was new in 2003. And so, but after I got back around, Vincent, I think he got me going into 6. And I realized something at that very point. I was very much in the moment at that point because I didn't want to lose sight of Josh. But Vincent was coming with some speed. And I just thought, you know what? I might be holding him up. And if I let him go and I get my claws in the back of him, maybe he
kind of draft him a little
dragged
bit
both
too.
of us
Yeah,
there. So I did it. I like I said, I didn't like let off. And one of my biggest accomplishments in that race is that we had left Tommy Hayden behind. And what was cool about that year, that was the 4th race of 2003 at Road Atlanta. And Tommy Hayden on a factory Kawasaki 636 had won every AMA Superstock race that year at Daytona. He won the first 3. And the series was called the Genuine Suzuki Accessories Superstock class. So the fact that a Kawasaki had won the first 3 races.
Kind of a slap in the face.
Yeah, and it was like, and so Morgan and those guys are all kind of pumping us up like, man, we got to, we need to beat Tommy. We need to beat the Kawasaki. And so I was thrilled just to be a part of that trio that kept Tommy not winning, but completely off the podium that weekend. And so, but yeah, Vincent pulls us there, and we go into turn 6 together. Josh and Vincent get by the lapper. I don't. I got held up behind him in 6 and 7. And when we came out of 7, I went to get on the gas. And here I am. I'm fighting for a podium in this race. We're lapping this guy. His fucking bike was faster than mine. I'm like, I couldn't pass him. So I stayed in the gas. We went around the kink and going down into 10, and he finally rolled out, and I stayed in it. But just that little bit of holdup kept me from having a chance to win that race, I think.
Damn.
And like I said, I finished 0.9, so I was close, but shit, man, close. Whatever. I didn't win.
It ain't horseshoes or hand grenades.
Right? Exactly. But yeah, so anyway, we get to the podium, and, they go through, they interview me first, then Josh. Then they give the microphone to Vincent. He was being interviewed by Rich Chambers. And what was funny is, we all do the respect to each other, that we listen to everything that everybody has to say. And of course, it's that podium was famous because Vincent wouldn't stop. So I look over at Josh. Josh looks over at me, and he was like, "Shit, let's just have a seat. We're hanging out here for a while, And he went on. But my favorite thing about what Vincent said is, he was talking about the race and how we had battled and then how he had caught up to Josh. And he was like, yeah, man, in the last turn, I passed the Josh. We're like, the Josh? What the hell is that like your new code name? What is that? And, but it went on for so long, and it was so fun, and just great getting to race with those guys. And it was great being competitive at that level, because that's what I wanted. And I raced AMA Pro from 2000 all the way through 2003 to the end of 06. I'm sorry, 2002 to 2006. And so to get to spend 5 years in that series at a time when I remember at the Supersport race one year at Daytona, when it was just the 600 Supersport class. And I remember I wasn't racing that class, but I remember counting 20 paid factory riders on 4 different brands in the top 20. 20 guys getting paid in one class. And now I think there might be 2 or 3 people that get paid in that series.
So that was going to be my final question to roll into things. So before we get
How did I know that? Are we on the same wavelength?
Well, before we get into that one and close out the show, is there any other stories that I don't know of that you might be able to pull out of your old ass brain and be able to talk about?
That was great. That really was. That race and Vincent and all that. But there was a one story that kind of goes along with something that happened in One Fast Move. There's a line in One Fast Move that Dean is talking to Wes. And he's like, listen, man, 100% gas, 100% brakes. Anything less is for pussies. And so when I heard that for the first time we watched the movie, I absolutely lost it. And so it reminded me of a story of when Grant was my crew chief, Grant Matsushima, and we're at Barber, and it was the last race of the year in 03. And we were frustrated because we should have had a lot more success that year. And we had it. We had the 3rd of Atlanta. We had the 4th at California Speedway. We had a bunch of top 5s, but we really thought we were competitive to be a podium finisher every weekend. But it just didn't work out like that. So last race of the year, Barber Motorsports Park. Grant and I are kind of each other's throat, and qualifying's up. So I wanted to go out and set the pace right away as fast as I could for myself and be in the 28s. So Barber Motorsports Park doing 128s on a 750 in 2003, what it should have put us on the front row. And so to start qualifying, Grant puts me on a brand new front and a used rear. And the reason we would do that is it would get me used to kind of spinning the rear tire up, trying to drive it off the corner, fighting the chassis to try to find grip and get everything out of every square inch of rubber on that motorcycle. And so what we would do, we'd start the session like that, and then we would start plugging in like a new soft or maybe a new medium, do a couple laps, new soft, and then boom, try to put a qualifying tire on. So I'm out there, I'm riding my ass off, the tire's complete shit. And I come in, and he didn't give me the inboard. I just pulled in. So remember in Days of Thunder where he pulls in early and dude is sitting there eating ice cream cone? Right?
Yeah.
Grant is sitting there on the pit box like, the fuck are you doing in here? I didn't tell you to come in. Now, granted, he didn't have ice cream that I saw, but he was like,
Maybe he threw it down real quick.
Yeah, he was like, I'm not ready for you. Go out and give me 2 more laps, then come in. And I was pissed. I'm like, dude. So I go out and I'm sliding all around, and I'm pissed off. I'm just like, this is bullshit. We're wasting time. Those guys are going fast. We're not. So I come in, bike goes up. I don't even look at him. I'm not talking to him. I'm not looking at him. Fuck him. Just put a tire on my bike. So bike goes up on the stand, and I didn't even lift my big ass off the seat. I'm like, you got to push me up, Grant's like 4'10", he's not that tall of a guy. So he's, whatever. The bike goes up in the air. He does all that shit, pulls the stand out. I start the bike, and he grabs my arm, my left arm. He's like, hey, better give me a fucking 28 or don't even come back in the pits. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. I was so furious, right? First flying lap, 28.7. Like, damn, hell yeah. And I had my onboard timer so I could see what I was doing.
And so people know, these aren't 28 seconds. This is a minute 28.
Yeah,
but you guys like to shorten it and say 28.
So a 128.7 Barber Motorsports Park in 2003 on a GSXR 750. And so I'm not even on a qualifying tire yet. This is just a soft race tire. First flyer was 28.7. So I'm mad, and it was kind of that spy hunter thing like we talked about at the beginning of the show, and I'm pissed off. I don't care where I pass people. I'm passing them on the curbs. I don't give a shit. And so I'm like, I'm going to go. And at that point, I was like, I'm going 27s. I'm going to do a 27.9. A 127.9 sounds
at least
great.
Break into the 27.
Exactly,
yeah.
right? So I come out of the museum corner, up the back straightaway through the first chicane, run that thing all the way to the curb on the left, drive it all the way back into the brake markers. It even touched the limiter right before where I normally shut off. And I'm like, oh, that was a great drive. You knew at that point, I'm getting a great drive. I lean into the left, go down the dip, come up to the right, get in the gas, fucking huge high side. Right? I am flying. And see that bridge, that grass, that hill kind of goes up and over, and it's down kind of smooth.
Yeah.
You remember that Chad Reed motocross crash? Where
at
he flew
Millville. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm flying through the air like shit. And at one point, I hit the ground, but it didn't hurt. It was like I just landed on the downslope just perfectly, right? But in my tumble, I see the motorcycle, and it's still rolling. It's still on 2 wheels.
What?
I'm like, and I'm tumbling, and I literally see my motorcycle rolling away from me. So it rolls down the hill across the inside curbing, and there's Armco barrier on the inside, and it just glances off the Armco barrier.
Yeah.
Right? 2 bikes go by, and at this point, I've jumped up, and I'm like, wait for me! I'm chasing my damn bike down, and it's still rolling. It is still fucking rolling, Anthony. And so it rolls all the way back across the track, up the hill like you're going to pit in. And it rolls, nobody hit it. It didn't fall over. I don't know how the hell that happened. It rolls all the way up into the grass near pit in, and it goes, dink. I'm like, you're shitting me. So for whatever reason, I run up there, get the bike. They won't let me go through pit in. I had to come out through like one of the gates and ride all the way around the damn pits, back in and back down there. So I come back, and Grant's like, "Where the fuck did you go?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I fucking crashed." And he's looking at the bike. He's like, "The fuck are you talking about? You didn't crash. You couldn't even tell. You could not even tell." And so I'm just like, I mean, that was the craziest, dude. That's like easily third gear, 100-mile-an-hour high side.
It's a very fast section.
And literally, the
yeah.
only thing it did to the bike is I've been sponsored by M4 Exhaust for years, and I love Kyle. I love those guys are great. And that little M4 logo where it bounced off the arm cover, scratched my M4 logo, and it broke the damn tip off my shifter. But other than that, you couldn't even tell the bike was crashed.
That's amazing.
Fucking unbelievable.
So, that last race that I did was at Barber your thing. On Friday practice, I crashed.
Okay. What turn?
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
What do you think is the most least likely turn to crash at Barber?
Least likely.
Yeah. Where if I was to be like, I crashed in this turn, you'd go, really?
Last turn. No. Chicane. First chicane.
From 1 to 2?
No. So you go the museum turn down the hill over the curb.
Oh, well, I could see you thinking that because there's not much of a turn. No,
Okay.
I mean a legit turn.
Legit turn. Charlotte's Web.
I almost crashed there. I nose wheelied all the way off into the grass.
Shit.
But that was actually during the race on Sunday. 2.
Okay, I was gonna say 2. I was, but I thought no, because you're up. It's like you're going uphill. It's off camber,
Yeah.
and then
Like, well,
tuck the
what's
front
funny
and-
about that, and I've talked to people about like when I was like moto buddies of mine when I talk about road racing. I was like, yeah, as long as you don't high side, not that bad. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, I slid at least 10 feet before I realized I crashed. So actually, Parker Steele had passed me or caught up or however it worked out. So, and I was like, all right, I'm going to follow him and pull a line.
Sure.
So I don't know if it was just I got off my line or whatever it was. But yeah, you're like turn 2 is a good
Were you
flow.
early in turn 2?
Yes.
Or further down. Okay.
Like by the time I was at the right before the middle, probably 50 feet before the middle, I was on the ground.
Right.
But it was probably not till the middle of the turn that I was like,
I just crashed.
my shoulder's on the ground.
No, turn 2 is so weird because you start up this hill.
Yeah.
And then it's banked, but as you drop down, it falls off as you're accelerating, driving the thing down.
I
the
love that feeling. From 2 to 3 is so cool. And it's funny is like most people that go to do track days or whatever, they talk about how scary that section is because you're blind going from 3 to 4. And I'm like, I went for motocross. I don't know what the fuck's on the other side of that.
You know what I try to do over that crest? I try to jump that fucker. I really do. So what I do is, when I come out of 2, I apex 2 early and drift out wide. And then as I start to drive down the hill, I square it. But what it does, there's curbing in between 2 and 3, way out on the left. And I try to aim for that and get my tires to hit that. So what I do is I kind of come back towards the crest, and there's curbing on the right. And I aim for the curbing, but right as I get to it, I just stand the bike up.
No shit.
And I wheelie across it. I mean, on a 1000, I can almost jump it. But on 750, something like that, it'll wheelie across.
Yeah.
And then, but what happens is when you go across that angle, when you set it down, you're out almost so far to the left that you're almost in the grass. So you have to make a second turn on that straightaway
before
to get back
going
over.
into Charlotte's. Yeah.
Yep.
But
So
I
fun.
love that from 2 to 3 because it's like it's a little bit of that roller coaster feeling.
I was just gonna
but
say roller
you're
coaster.
in control of
Yeah.
that machine. Like roller coasters never do shit to me. It's kind of
You're hooked to the
too
rail.
safe
Yeah.
almost, you know? I kind of feel the same way about skydiving, and people look at me weird when I say this. It's like, yeah, you have this cool feeling for a little bit, but you got a parachute. It's a little bit different if you didn't have one. You had
Right.
to make shit happen.
Right.
Like then, now we're talking some
Didn't
excitement.
Pastrana like jump out of a
Yeah,
plane?
and he got like banned from parachuting for a long time.
But he had like somebody else there to obviously that was parachuting.
Yeah, there was like 10 guys from what I've heard from
Okay.
listening to things where they
So
had
that
it
got all
just
go
in
get him.
case. Yeah, like if he couldn't get this guy or something happened, then this other person could do it. But no,
That's insane.
all right, so that was awesome story. But the last final thing that I want to ask you about, and I feel like this is maybe a little controversial, but you're an old retired fat guy. Who gives
Right.
a shit? Nobody
Exactly.
cares about you.
Got that
So,
bod?
what do you think went wrong with AMA racing? And what could they have do now to bring it back to what it was in its
I've heard some very interesting theories over the years. Um, and couple things. And it affected more than just pro racing. It affected club racers that were chasing contingency money. But if you look at 2008, I had a conversation with John Ulrich one time, I think at Jennings GP. And John Ulrich owns Road Racing World Magazine. Him and his son Chris own and run the M4X Star Suzuki team right now. John has been in the industry. He helped find Kevin Schwantz. He helped find John Hopkins. I mean, he's kind of a, kind of one of those guys that creates employment opportunities, to get these guys to become pro racers. He has a knack for finding these new guys coming up and making them the next Kevin Schwantz or the next John Hopkins or whoever. And so the dude's been around forever. He raced himself, won championships. And so they are a racing family. And so John, in a conversation one time at Jennings GP about that time period, 08, 09, was talking about how the housing market and I don't know if you call it a crash in 2008, but that's when even all the manufacturers started to pull their contingency money back. So if you were a bounty hunter out going trying to race for fun but earn money so you could pay for your racing or whatnot, that started to go away. I think that played a big role. But and his last name is failing me right now. There was a gentleman many years ago. I want to say his name was Roger, and I cannot think of his last name for the life of me. He helped start and run the CCS series, the Championship Cup series, and he had some involvement with AMA in the very beginning as AMA became the Pro Series, and there was this whole thing where there was an argument that involved litigation over the use of some of the terms like super sport and stuff like that he had helped kind of create in the beginning. So effectively, there was a point where he sued Roger Edmondson. That was it. Roger Edmondson sued the AMA and won over these different things that they copied from him, right?
You want to know something wild about that?
Talk to me.
I'm pretty sure the guy he had to battle against was this guy named Bill Amick.
Okay.
What's my wife's maiden name?
No way.
Related somehow.
What?
We've done the connection.
So Edmondson sues AMA, wins. AMA has to pay him all this money. And the AMA is it's funded by its members. And so basically taking money from, and I don't know where the money came from to pay him or whatever. And I don't know how many millions of dollars it was, but it was a lot. But one of the things that I had heard, and I'm not going to reveal my sources, was that, so this DMG, Daytona Motorsports Group, was created in 08, 09. And what my understanding of that was, you had NASCAR people that NASCAR had grown so big that some of these quote unquote old guys like myself were sitting around and didn't have anything to do. So they're like, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to get this. We're going to buy this little motorcycle series. And we're going to let you guys play with that just so y'all can get a paycheck and got something to do. So there was this lackadaisical approach to motorcycle racing in this country, where, in other parts of the world, most other parts of the world, it's viewed as such an incredible sport. It is very low on the totem pole here in the United States. But so there was that whole situation where DMG took over and kind of just like, whatever, we own it. Who gives a shit? At least that's the way it felt to guys that were racing that series. I did a round or two and was just like, eh. But there were people that suggested to me that even though Edmondson won the lawsuit against AMA, and again, I don't know all the details. I don't want to go too far to that because I might not be telling.
Yeah, like honestly, this is just speculation.
Yeah,
this is
totally,
like a feeling. This isn't facts. It says in the beginning of the show, we are not media.
Yep.
This shit could be totally made up. You're hearing this possibly third. Don't sue my ass because guess what? That's about the most expensive thing that.
But my understanding is he had such a disdain for everything that happened that he wanted to kill the sport. He was going to do everything he could to absolutely kill professional motorcycle racing in America. In fact, and I'll tie a little bit more into it, KTM had the Red Bull Rookies Cup for a couple of years. Guess who killed that? Evanson. he helped them decide to spend more money elsewhere and pull that entire series out. And so, as I understand it, and I'm sure there's some other details I'm not making, I'm not sure of there, and might not be mentioning. But my understanding is he helped kill that deal with Red Bull KTM, which ultimately pulled the rookies out, and then ultimately that whole series died. And again, my understanding is he had such a hard-on for killing motorcycle road racing in this country that's what he went after. That was his goal. And so it suffered till Mr. Wayne Rainey came in and said, man, we got to try to revive this thing.
Yeah,
And
and that's how
thankfully-
Moto America was kind of built.
Yep. Because Wayne Rainey obviously was a 3-time 500 Grand Prix champion, and look at all the names of the people that are involved with Moto America now. Michael Martin is one of the M4 family, and so Michael, multi-time Formula USA champion, Weir National Endurance champion. They've got people now that are racers, were racers, and that have the best interest
For the
sport.
Yeah.
To be out putting a legit race series on, and I think they're doing a hell of a job.
Dude, when I thought to ask you that was not where I thought this was going to go. Because while I'm working at home, all I do is listen to motorcycle pods,
Sure.
and there was a lot of shit recently. I'm going to send it to you that
Okay.
came up about the other side of it, because the AMA Pro Racing was being sold at that point.
Yes.
That includes motocross and other sports of that. So there's a lot of shit that's happened and come to surface recently in other podcasts.
Interesting.
So to hear the asphalt side of it from what you know, which is, again, is third party, it could be made up, could be people just saying this is how they feel, and a lot of it is honestly how you felt about it.
Sure.
It's not this is fact.
Yeah.
That's wild. And I honestly thought you were going to go with, because what my understanding of it is the NASCAR guys bought it. They put all these rules into place. They allowed the Buell Harley Davidson
That was a whole other deal, yeah.
1150s to race in the 200 and
Yep.
all this other crazy stuff. Who was it that got caught in the rear tire of somebody like that first or second year? Like
Oh,
along the
man.
finish line. Somebody will find it or whatever. But like that's just shit that I kind of remember of it. So like people started calling it NASBike and all this other shit, and they're like, yeah, no matter what rules you put on, who was it that was dominant? Ben Spies or Josh Hayes?
So,
like,
no
matter what rules you put on, that person is still
They're
going to
always
be
going to rise to the top.
Yeah, the cream always rises
Yeah.
to the top.
So that was interesting. I remember at Fontana after DMG took over, Jamie Hacking, who's a badass factory rider, he was on a Kawasaki at the time. And there's another friend of mine, Danny Eslick. I love Danny Eslick.
Yeah.
Slick is awesome. He's awesome on flat track. He's awesome on road. The dude's awesome. He's a super cool guy. Won the Daytona 200 like, I don't know, 5 times. He's badass in every sense of the word. And but what it was at the time, Slick was riding a Buell, and it was called Daytona Sport Bike.
Yeah.
And so he was riding the Buell, I think 1125 in Daytona Sport Bike. But Jamie Hacken was riding a Kawasaki 636.
Yeah.
And it might even only been a 600 at that point. And they're interviewing Hack. Hack got like second, but it was a very distant second. And he's like, man, the last, because honestly, there's nothing I could do with that because, Buell's only middleweight bike is an 1125, and I'm riding a 600.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he was frustrated, and I get it because he's a winner. He races to win, and so is Slick. In other tracks, I think Jamie had a better shake of things. But at Fontana, the Buell worked really good there, and Danny was really good at Fontana, always was. It was one of those things that it really created a lot of ripples, and it gave companies like Buell a place to go race their motorcycle, which is great.
Yeah.
But it really ripped racing apart from the inside. Road racing, I should say. Where I felt like at the same time, if you look over that same time period, motocross, supercross flourished.
Yeah.
I think it packed stadiums every
It takes
time.
way bigger balls to race.
Right,
bike,
sure.
so.
Because, yeah, right. Road races or whatever.
Man.
Right.
No, but I mean, back to, and I'm glad you went on that tangent, but it's like, from the outside, I saw that happen. It was like, there's these other companies that are trying to throw the money in and do these things, and then people kind of lost interest, combined with a perfect storm of the fallout of 08 and 09, where he lost. Because even the local series I would hear about when I started road racing was like, dude, the 600 what it would like, not a C class, but like that's what I'm trying to think of.
Super
like,
sport.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Like there would be waves all the way back up to turn 12 from the start.
Absolutely.
And the contingency fell off. And hell, if I'm remembering right, and you got to think I'm a 22-year-old kid in college, broke as shit, living check to paycheck.
Right.
I remembered you saying Dunlop was giving you $80,000 a year.
So no,
in contingency or something like that, where I was like, what?
So no, okay, so man, I wish. So no, so before I was on Dunlop, I was on Pirelli, and there was a year in 2004 where Lee Acre and I were teammates on a Suzuki supported team. That year, Pirelli gave us 500 free tires to split between the two of us, and I think it was $10,000 cash. And then the very next year, I was having problems with the tires, how they worked, how they lasted.
I remember you saying that.
But I switched brands for a lot less support, actually. But I wanted to be on Dunlops. But a typical tire contract.
Then maybe it was just contingency.
There
was something where I remember it was 60, 50, 80, whatever it was. I was just like,
I know I had a
shit.
friend named another great racer that I raced against named Robert Jensen, who's awesome, but he's a dick. No, I'm joking. He's awesome. He had a family member that worked for Michelin. I'm not going to say any names. And somehow Robbie, he had a tire profile that he really liked. So he literally had his own front tire. It was freaking amazing for him, but it was because of his style. And so he liked to back it in and then spin the tire out the corner. But I want to say in that 08, 09, he was getting, my understanding, he was getting free tires. Michelin had paid for his motorhome for him. And he still got contingency from Michelin. And it was all on a debit card. You could use it at McDonald's, Walmart, whatever. But he told me he made $65,000 that year in cash on Michelin contingency.
Nice. And maybe that's the story that
Maybe
you
that's
said.
what it was. It wasn't me. I didn't win that much money.
Well, you're not that good.
Exactly. Nice shot. But yeah, so man, the money used to be there. I used to get, checks in the mail and this and that. And then as 08 and 09 happened, it went from checks to a debit card.
Yeah.
And then they would just charge your card and you could use that wherever you want. And then get to 09, 2010, and that debit card is only good at a dealer now. And that's when you started to see the hardcore club racers that were bounty hunters racing for money. They started to drop off, and a friend of mine was like, "Man, I'm not racing for spark plugs and air filters.
Yeah,
I'm not doing that."
And there was, from what I've heard, there were some shops that would kind of, if you had a really good relationship, fudge that somehow where you bought this and they just hooked you up with that kind of stuff, or they put it towards the bikes, or they would do things like that.
So I had heard that. That was not the case for me. But what I decided, as I was opening my own shop at the beginning of 2011, what I figured out was this: how can I make this work for me? Because a lot of guys got out, and so it just the field was changing, and that's where the need for motivation changing.
I was going to tie that in if you weren't going to.
What I did though, in opening my own shop, so I opened Caylor Made Motorsports the beginning of 2011. It was the week of Snowmageddon. That was my first week in business.
Holy shit!
And I was so pumped about having my own shop. It's freezing ass cold outside.
Yeah.
I rode a CRF 150 to work every day in the snow. I just wanted to be there in my shop, So, but what I did was this: I started thinking, how can I use this card and make it work with everything, and it be legal, obviously, and all that.
Yeah.
So what I started doing is when customers would come into Caylor Made when I first opened. So let's say somebody comes in and needs some OEM parts. What I do is I take my debit card, my Suzuki debit card, and I go over to Mountain Motorsports or whatever shop.
Maybe it was Motion at the time. Maybe it was.
Maybe it was.
It was close to that.
But I would pay for the OEM parts for the customer at my price, at dealer cost or whatever that was, whatever price they were giving me, cost plus 10 or whatever.
Usually it's cost plus 20 for a shop. But
okay.
Yeah.
So I would buy that with my debit card.
I ran.
I would buy that part with my debit card of those parts, turn around, put the price I was selling it to the customer for on an invoice, and then get my money back that way. So I just had to be patient. The money would come, but I had to kind of work through the system.
Smart.
And so it worked out great for a couple of years. And then I just got to the point, after I won all those races in 2011, I woke up on a Saturday morning, and I was just like, you know what? I think I'm done.
Yeah.
And so I quit sprint racing. I rode endurance with the the Dunlop Endurance team, and it was the Dunlop development team. We were helping Dunlop develop some of their new race slicks, all the American-made product. And so I rode for Billy Etheridge and the DEI race team, which was I'm sorry, BEI, Billy Etheridge Enterprises or whatever. And we won 2 national championships on a row.
Awesome.
We won it in 2012. Actually, it was 3. No, I take it back. It was 2. It was 2012, 2013, won National Heavyweight Endurance overall championship. 2014, I didn't even own a motorcycle, didn't go to a racetrack, didn't ride. And then 2015, my little daughter's like, Daddy, I want to see you ride.
Aw.
Yeah, and that's how I got back in for a little.
So she was tired of her dad looking like a pussy. And Dad, I need to see.
Yeah,
something.
I need to see what you're all about. Let's see this shit. So she showed up to a race with my wife Tracy and my son Matthew, and thankfully I had my shit together that day and could still win. And after that, it was a Father's Day weekend. We went roller skating after that. It was so awesome.
You know what? I think it just hit me talking about the nipples hurt and stuff like that. I got to hang out and see your boy yesterday and your daughter. How old's Matt? And how
Matt
old?
is 19. Abby's 15.
All right, so he's a solid 1.5 taller than you. So the reason your nipples didn't hurt is because that's not your boy.
That thing was coming right.
Is he the mailman? Do you know what was going on
I'm
around
trying
that
to figure it
time?
out still. He's
How tall is he?
He's 6'4".
Jesus, no way is he 6'4".
Yeah.
I could buy like 5'17", but there's no way he's 6'4". Come on.
No, he is. And you know what's crazy is we go ride bikes now. He challenges me to do stuff in my old age, challenges me to do stuff that might be a little bit outside of my comfort zone. And we were riding blankets the other day, and there's this drop called Ginger Shred.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? And it's not that big, but I'd say from the very top to where you land down the trail, 10 feet, maybe 8 or 10 feet total. And so we have this rule. What's that?
What? Nothing.
Okay. We have this rule that we created when we're pushing each other. 3 strikes, you're out.
Okay.
And so when he first did it, he didn't tell me about it. He just, boom, goes off the end. Well, I'd lock up the brakes. And I'm like, dude, you could have told me that was coming. And I'm sitting there looking, and he's like, strike 1. I'm like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, just hold on a second. So I get off the bike, and I walk down around to the front. Of course, there's a trail running perpendicular to it. So as I stood there and looked at the lip, it's right about eye level, maybe right around my forehead. And I'm 8 feet tall. So so I'm sitting there looking at it, and he's all the way across the way on the other side of the ridge. He's like, strike 2. I'm like, bullshit, just stop. So I'm like, damn it, I got to do this. I can't be a pussy. I got to do this. So I walk back up, grab my bike. I walk behind a tree. I said a quick little prayer. I'm like, all right, I'm sending it. I'm just
Jesus, take the wheel.
So I just pedaled, and he was like, listen, man, when you come off, just kind of give it a little push to the suspension and just go. Just keep the nose up. And I did it, and it was so much fun. I'm like, oh, my God, we're doing it again. So I did it like 2 or 3 more times. But it's good. He really pushes me where I get a little complacent and be like, man, I'm 50 years old. I don't have to do that anymore. It's so much more fun to do
My
it.
balls are down to my knees.
Yeah,
I don't need
right?
that shit.
I've got, chafing marks and all that.
No, honestly, it would be like being 5. I showed you the bike that we got him. He rode this past weekend, and I forgot to turn the GoPro on. Like, I mounted to the front of his helmet. I wish I'd have got this. It was such a special moment. He's walking back. He doesn't know I can hear my wife, and I bet Dad's so proud of me.
I love
it. And I was, but I wasn't proud of the fact that he rode a dirt bike. I wasn't proud of it. I was proud of the fact that, because there's a lot of times he'll get into a situation where he's like, I don't know if I can do this, and he shuts down. But it's like, this is nothing compared to this. But because it's new or something he's not 100% familiar with, he'll shut down. And he didn't shut down. And at that point, I was like, and I've said it ever since he was born, like, I can't wait till he's 3. 3 on is going to be. So it's pretty neat.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Being a dad, man, is freaking awesome. We have a really good job. And so one of the things I've gotten to enjoy is my daughter Abigail, who actually raced BMX for a little while, won some races against boys. She took to it. She was great with it. But she got introduced to soccer. And she herself is tall. She's 5'8", 5'9", and she's built similar to me with big muscular legs and whatnot. And she's a goalie. And so she was a freshman in high school last year, and she's very talented. She's very natural in soccer and specifically at goalie. And what it was one night, we were at a game, and the starter, her name was Mia. Mia got injured. She had to come out. So they put Abby in a varsity game.
Oh shit!
As a freshman, and man, she just rose to the occasion, and she got in there and fought. And there was one game that we went to, Everwood or something like that, over off 285. She played. I've never seen anything like it. Basically, offensively, our soccer team wasn't very good, the JV team, but Abby's really good in goal. The other team was like a freaking offensive powerhouse, and they just had people passing it and shooting it, and from every angle, either side. That was just incredible. And Abby somehow every time found a way to stop the damn ball, and they shot at her. I think they had like 30 shots in the first half, and a half's only, golly, what is it? 15 minutes.
Shit, I don't.
Yes, I think it's 15 minutes. And so it was amazing. We were so proud of her, and she got tired in the second half. They pulled her out. She was exhausted because they were just firing on her so much. But we actually had coaches and parents from the other team. I had a coach walk up to us and say, "Dude, you have no idea what you have there." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Dude, she's incredible." So
This thing?
yeah. No, I wish she was still riding stuff with two wheels as much as she does, but she does some pedaling to cross train.
Mhm.
And as her sophomore year has started at high school at Wheeler, she's also going to play flag football. She's going to play club soccer and high school soccer. So she's got a busy, but it's going back to your point. It's so cool to see your kids
Yeah.
hit those new levels and whatever it is, and get there and just, continue to fight, and it gives you that pride. It's awesome.
Dude, yeah, it is. But we are officially an hour longer than any of my other shows I've done before.
I talk too much.
But
I'm
I don't give a
sorry.
fuck because it was awesome.
I'm
So
sorry.
we are going to close out the show. So the last thing that I have my kid record a story, motorcycle
Awesome.
story at some time. So
I wanna
we're
hear
gonna
it.
play that out. Then we're going to play my outro, and we're going to go. And I mainly have to do this because I'm about to piss my pants. So
Okay.
let's start this thing. You go ahead and listen to it or mute it out. Hey, anybody watching, listening to this, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. It's a lot of fun. And just encourage you to have a good motorcycle story. If you are listening to this, you have a good story, or you have a buddy who has a good story, tell them to call 844-789-2367. Send in a good story, or if you have a really good video, slide in my DMs on social media, campfiremotorstories.com. Send it to my website. Wait, my social media is not campfiremotorstories.com. You know what I'm saying, people. It's been a long night.
Send in the story.
Fuck, it's 11. All right, yeah, send in a story. It's good times. Opie, thank you for coming in. This
Pleasure.
is all in time.
Thank you. Great catching
We'll
up.
get you in at some point again, too. Maybe
And
when,
I won't talk as much next time.
no, please shut the fuck up. All right. We're out. See ya.
Tell me about the first time you rode your dirt bike. That like,
It was fun.
what made it so fun?
When I got some air.
You had air. Did you feel like you were gonna crash when you got the air?
No.
You really didn't even crash on that thing. Like you have a wipeout. You had those tip overs when you stopped, but you didn't have any crashes. Did you ever think you were gonna crash? No. You think you can jump that thing even higher? Is there any other stuff you'd want to tell me about it?
No.
Okay. What was Mama just asking you?
I chalk that.
Chalk fest.
I mean, like a little baby hug.
Do you think who would be faster, you or Frankie?
Frankie.
Yeah, she's pretty fast.
Well, the dirt bike's pretty much faster than her.
You think so?
Yeah.
She cuts the track too, huh?
And this guy's pretty fast too.
Yeah. All right. So now that you told us about that, how about you tell me a story about riding something with a dinosaur?
Remember that car with the dinosaur riding the dirt bike?
The car?
The card.
The card?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember. Well, tell me a story. You can make one up. Put whatever animals you want in it.
Tell me one about a dinosaur riding a motorcycle.
Once upon a time, me and Frankie and my friend Dino. Me and Frankie and my friend Dino, we were riding down the street on a motorcycle. And we had a bunch of fun that we could not even believe.
Was there any zombies there?
No,
No Minecraft zombies?
no.
Well, what else happened?
Yeah.
You wanna talk about a leap thing? I have not started in the darkness. With cups that roll the dice. We get no fucks now, who thinks twice, yeah. And when this whole takes over, felt like it was trying to shake us. Held on to what we knew. It could try, but it never break us. It could try, but it never break us. Talk about us growing up, like we can't function on this level. You laugh at who we are. You're the joke that's taken too far. So let's go crashing over. We won't take a step. We just keep getting closer. Can you